Let's have a roll call vote, please.
District 1, Supervisor Alejo. District 2, Supervisor Church. District 3, Supervisor Lopez. District 4, Supervisor Askew. District 5, Supervisor Daniels. City of Carmel by the Sea.
Here.
City of Delray Oaks. City of Gonzales.
Here.
City of Greenfield. City of King City. City of Marina.
Here.
City of Monterey.
Here.
City of Pacific Road.
Here.
City of Salinas.
Here.
City of Sand City.
Here.
City of Seaside. City of Soledad. Ambeg. Caltrans District 5. Monterey Bay Air Resource District.
Here.
Monterey Regional Airport District.
Alternate Carl Miller here for Dino Pick.
Monterey Salinas Transit. City of Watsonville. CSUMB. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say that Director Barron is here from Iceland. I just wanted to say that. Also, it appears that TAMC's reach is unlimited. But
Yeah, thank you. I'll tell you all that this is a real sacrifice. The weather here is fantastic today. First time ever.
Thank you, Director Barron. Appreciate your commitment. Let's go to the next one, which is Pledge of Allegiance. Let's stand, please. Item number 2 are public comments. Do we have any? Do we have any in the room? Seeing none, do we have any online? I see a hand raised. Jean Rush, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning. I am Jean Rash, and I am the City Council person from the City of Monterey in District 3. And that includes Skyline and a lot of Monterey Vista. And for years, my constituents up in Skyline have been concerned about the safety concerns at the intersection of Route 68, where it meets Skyline Forest Drive. And this, I know you've heard about concerns for many years, as have I. And I'm just here to ask your cooperation. We're really trying to move forward with this. Councilmember Smith has been very helpful, and City Manager Dante Hall has been very helpful. And we want to get some momentum to get this safety study done, and any other advice that the professionals in traffic concerns have. So I'm just here asking for support as we move along, and as you hear of this. We're trying to get all stakeholders to the City of Monterey, and tentatively that's July 28th from 11 to 2. We will be reaching out if you haven't already been contacted, if you might keep that open. And thank you for your time and your consideration on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for making us aware of this. Any other public comments? Okay, I see no other than I'll close public comments and move on to the next item, which is the consent agenda. Does anybody here from the board wish to pull any items from the consent agenda? I don't see any from here. Anybody from the public wishing to pull an item from the consent agenda? Okay, I see no. Okay, thank you. We had a comment, Director LeBard, do you want to make a comment?
Just again, I just want to take the time to thank TAMC, Andy Cook as the person taking over the King City Multimodal Transit Center. I very much appreciate the cooperation and a partnership with TAMC. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a first and a second, all in, I guess we need to go to roll call vote. Let's go with the roll call vote, please.
District 1, Supervisor Alejo. District 4, Supervisor Askew. I don't see her. District 5, Supervisor Daniels.
Aye.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
Yes.
City of Delray Oaks. City of Gonzales. City of Greenfield.
Aye.
City of King City.
Aye.
City of Marina.
Yes.
City of Monterey. City of Pacific Grove. City of Salinas.
Yes.
City of Sand City.
Aye.
City of Seaside.
Aye.
City of Soledad. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you very much. Item number 4 is a resolution of appreciation. Probably the reason why I set my alarm clock today, but Doug, do we have you where's Doug? All right, do you want to make some comments or do we read this?
Would you like to read it or would you like me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. We have a resolution that I'd like to read. Resolution of appreciation for Doug Bilsey, Principal Transportation Engineer. Whereas an employee of the Transportation Agency most recently since March 2021, plus a prior term between 1992 and 1999, Doug Bilsey has been a dedicated and valued member of the Transportation Agency for Monterey County team. And whereas during his 12 years at the Transportation Agency, Doug Bilsey's experience, skills, and strong commitment to the residents of Monterey County have contributed to the success of the agency's projects and programs. And whereas Mr. Bilsey has been a trusted colleague known for his willingness to assist others, share his knowledge, and mentor emerging professionals in the transportation field. And whereas Mr. Bilsey has spent countless hours analyzing, observing traffic patterns, particularly along State Route 68, helping to identify and advance solutions to improve safety and mobility. Whereas he has been highly engaged with the community, meeting with residents and stakeholders groups to listen to concerns and collaborate on meaningful transportation improvements. And whereas in response to community concerns, he led innovative efforts such as the Toro Park Pilot Traffic Diversion Project to address neighborhood cut-through traffic and enhance quality of life for residents. Whereas through his experience and strong collaboration with Caltrans District 5, he played a key role in advancing the US 101 South of Salinas project. And whereas his leadership, dedication, collaboration, and contributions have had a lasting positive impact on the agency and the communities it serves. Now and therefore be it resolved that Doug Bilsey is hereby recognized for his outstanding 12 years of service to the Transportation Agency for Monterey County by the Board of Directors on this 24th day of June 2026.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Doug, a very well-deserved recognition and appreciation. I would say just from my side, when I think about you, I think about roundabouts, just because that's been my experience with you. But one of the key things that I noted from Doug really is that no matter what whenever I talk to him or whenever I see him in conversations, he's always smiling. And there's always a solution for it. And that has been his attitude. And I really appreciate that. Really, thank you for your service, Doug. And anybody else wish to make a comment? Yes.
When I think of Doug, I think of Toro Park neighborhood experimentation to try to reduce the congestion around the schools and safety. And I've not previously seen an agency official get that involved with the community meetings and come up with, the best solution possible that doesn't make everyone happy, but makes the majority of the people happy. And I just thought that his effort in the Toro School neighborhood area was commendable.
Yes, go ahead.
That too, that was one of the things I wanted to say, but I also want to refer to mentoring emerging professionals in the transportation field. I had a young student who was just graduated from high school, going off to college, who during our, one of the, I think it might have been Toro Park, I'm not sure, but he got interested in what Doug did as a job. And you took him out to lunch or something like that, and just really went the distance to share your knowledge and share what you do with a young person. And it probably will have a lasting impact on what this young person decides to do in life. So thank you for that. I know it having shown up in your resolution of appreciation, I think it wasn't the first time. And so thank you for that so much. And thank you for all of your service. Yes, the Toro Park situation, bless you for that and what you did. And I just really appreciate all the work we've been able to do in the short time I've been in office. Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry for being late. I'm though really ecstatic that I was here and caught this part. For me, this is why I wanted to be at this meeting. I've had the opportunity to work with Doug in both of his phases here at TAMC in the early days and currently. And I've always found his counsel to be sage and his experience invaluable, especially most recently in his work on the SURF project and bringing the construction management general contractor project delivery method to bear and to fruition here in Monterey County on this project. So Doug, thank you so much for being such a great partner to Monterey Salinas Transit over the years. Thank you.
Okay, yes.
Doug, congratulations. You know, when I look at Doug, I am thoughtful that he's such a nice guy. And, you know, there's a lot of nice guys that are in the Hall of Fame and their numbers are, yeah, okay. And there are a lot of others out there in the Hall of Fame in baseball that had tremendous numbers and didn't have the personality and couldn't connect with people and weren't approachable, and they aren't in the Hall of Fame. So Doug is in the Hall of Fame with also performance and personality and loyalty. And so I look forward to him buying me lunch in Monterey. I'm kidding, I'll buy him lunch. And as a resident of Monterey, we are privileged to know that he's still going to be around in Monterey, and we'll get to be able to see him, and hopefully we can drag him into something else part-time and keep him busy in Monterey. But thank you, Doug. Well-deserved, and congratulations on your long career.
Yes.
Well, Doug, obviously you've been a part of a lot of projects here at TAMC, but ones that I think really near and dear to me, one is the South of 101 project and making sure that that kept the momentum up and it kept moving forward. That is a project, while you won't be here, you'll be part of saving lives in the future. So for me, that is tremendously important. And I know if Supervisor Lopez was here, he'd be saying the exact same thing. And then finally is very thankful that your last presentation to our council was on Vision Zero, another thing that will be saving lives in the future. I appreciate your work with our staff to get that plan developed, and TAMC's understanding that not every city has the resources to do this. So it's just another example how regionally, when we work together, we actually improve the lives of everyone and no one is left behind. So Doug, I wish you well in your retirement. I'd be wary of answering any phone calls because you will be getting a lot of calls to say, you want to help volunteer for this. And you don't seem like the type of person that easily says no. So have a good one.
Yes.
Sorry about that, Chair. I just want to associate myself with the comments. You know, and what I see is not just any particular project, but just your professionalism all along the way. And especially, you know, when you're giving your presentations, I found those insightful, even though I probably dozed off a couple of times. What I was just thinking about now is those things come about your work and your ethics behind the scene, doing the data, standing on the side of the road, coming back here, crunching the numbers, bringing up the best practices for us. So you made us look good all along the way. And so I appreciate it. And I just want to congratulate you and hopefully you enjoy what's comes next. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments for Doug? Did we, any public comments? Okay, seeing none. Yeah.
You get time to change your mind.
There's no rescinding. There's a resolution.
A little closer to the front. 2 steps right there.
Get the photo right. That's a good one.
Well, thanks for the kind words, and I do want you to know that you have a tremendous team here. Todd has done an incredible job getting together people that I've enjoyed working with. They're public servants, and it's been great with Mike as a supervisor. And for anyone that doesn't know, how it is to be a public servant, because I think it's like surfing. You just get pounded a lot. You get some wipeouts. You get some good waves. And everything lined up this year to be the perfect sending off. And it's because all these people here, they really helped me, push me into that last great wave. And it's time, because I've had a lot of people on the shoreline cheering me in and saying that, my wife Mary has just been incredible for 34 years, staying up late from meetings I come into. And, we all said it's time to come home, and got an epic ride in. So thanks for the ride, and good luck to these guys.
Shane just reminded me that we needed a first and a second for this.
Second.
Thank you. A roll call vote, please. Thanks.
District 1 Supervisor Alejo. District 4 Alternate Pawnee. Aye. What do I have? Why am I, okay. District 5 Supervisor Daniels.
Aye.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
Yes.
City of Delray Oaks. City of Gonzales.
Aye.
City of Greenfield.
Aye.
City of King City.
Aye.
City of Marina.
Yes.
City of Monterey.
Aye.
City of Pacific Grove. City of Salinas.
Yes.
City of San City. Aye. City of Seaside.
Aye.
City of Soledad. Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And congrats again, Doug. Obviously, the staff didn't want to let you go quietly since you have a meeting, since you have a presentation later. But we'll move on to the next item, which is like the single largest act policy that we're going to take here. It is the 2026 Regional Transportation Plan. Mike, you have the floor.
Okay, good morning, Chair and members of the board. Mike Zeller, TAMC's Director of Program and Project Delivery. Be presenting on our 2026 Regional Transportation Plan, so the adoption of the final plan and the associated environmental document. Just as a background, we had a public hearing at the board at the January meeting on the draft plan. So the draft plan had been out for circulation. We received comments, made some updates to the plan based on the limited comments that we received. And so this is the final plan coming back for adoption. So I have a few slides that I can just run through. The purpose of the Regional Transportation Plan, it's our long-range plan. So we look out for this document out to the year 2050 to look at the different funding and transportation needs for the county over that timeline. We look at what potential revenue sources we expect to bring in over that time. And it lays out the basis for state and federal funding so that we can go after future grants. Typically, one of the requirements for different grant programs is that your projects are listed in the Regional Transportation Plan. And it also signifies a large regional collaboration effort. So we work closely with AMBAG, with the Santa Cruz County Regional Transportation Commission and the San Benito Council of Governments in the development of the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So that's where the 3 county level plans roll up into the AMBAG region. So we work closely with all of those organizations during the development of our local plans. The required elements for the plan, there are 3. The first is a policy element. The second is the financial element that I mentioned, which is the budget and the revenues, what we plan on expending and how we plan on covering those expenses. And the action element is all the projects that are included. So if you recall, we have gone through a very extensive process of updating the project list, working closely with all the local jurisdictions to either add new projects that are planned to come online, delete projects that have been completed or not moving forward, or adjust scopes of projects that are already included in the process, in the plan. So all of that has already been incorporated, worked through with your local staff, and it's been incorporated into this final plan. The policy element covers goals, objectives, and performance measures. So we lay out, the board had approved the policy element early on, I believe in 2024, that tracks, here we go, both access and mobility, safety and health, environmental stewardship, equity, and economic vitality. Each of those goals have objectives associated with them, as well as performance measures that we can use to track our ability to, that we're making progress towards enacting these goals. The financial element for this updated plan comes in at $7.9 billion. So this is both funding that is secured, but also reasonably expected to be secured. So the $7.9 billion is not actualized funds over the 2050 time horizon, but it's funds that through different grants and different programs that we can reasonably expect that we're going to potentially bring in to fund the projects that are in the plan. The majority of the funding comes from both local, which is the, primarily our Measure X. We also have our Regional Development Impact Fee, which we'll hear in the next presentation. We have the almost equal amount of state funding, primarily the Senate Bill 1 grant programs, as well as our State Transportation Improvement Program, our rail and transit funding that we get from the state. And then about a quarter, the remaining quarter from federal sources. So that would be from the federal discretionary grant programs. One of the key things that I wanted to point out is that when we pull together these different revenue sources for the plan to come up to that 7.9 billion, that as you're well aware, different funding, different colors of money come with different restrictions on how we can spend that money and the different types of projects that it can go towards. So just because we're bringing in, or that we've forecasted 7.9 billion in funding, that doesn't mean that we can necessarily put it to specific projects. It has to go to different categories, and then we have to make that project list that I mentioned match those different categories so that the revenues match up with the types of projects that we're planning to deliver. And there's just a very small portion of it that's flexible that we have discretion to put to different types of projects. And when we do this the next time in 4 years from now, I'm going to take out those animations. So the project list, it gets broken up into two different categories. One is constrained. Those are the projects that we are reasonably expecting that we'll be able to fund over the 2050 time horizon. And unconstrained are projects that we still expect to, that are planned, that we want to include in the program in case grant funding does come up, but there's no funding that is programmed or committed to the projects just as of yet. So as I mentioned, when projects go after different grants, one of the requirements is to be in the regional transportation plan. So the uncommitted or the unconstrained project list is a way to make sure that those projects are already captured so that if opportunities do arise where they can go after funding, that they're already included in the plan. So some examples of our regionally significant constrained or projects that we expect to be funded over the 2050 time horizon. We have our State Route 218 Operational Improvements Project, our scenic route 68 corridor improvements, which you'll hear a little bit more about in the later presentation from Doug. We also have our US 101 south of Salinas improvements that are moving forward. Some others are our rail extension to Monterey County, the King City Roundabout, as well as the Fort Ord Regional Trail and Greenway, which we have a current segment in construction and another segment slated to go to construction next year. Some of the projects that are regionally significant but do not have identified sources of funding currently are the State Route 1 improvements in North Monterey County through Elkhorn Slough. We have the Around to the Bay Rail, primarily the Monterey Branch Line corridor, as well as the State Route 1 Fremont Monterey Road California Avenue intersection. As I mentioned, there was a large public participation effort that was associated with the development of this plan. It was a multi-year effort coordinated with AMBAG. There was a wide range of groups and stakeholders and the general public that have been engaged with throughout this process through different meetings, workshops, and surveys. And these are all documented in Appendix A of the report, if you'd like to go through those. And the meaningful input that we did receive from the public was very beneficial in helping us shape the final plan. So as part of this process, AMBAG develops the environmental impact report that covers the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, as well as the 3 county level transportation plans for Monterey, Santa Cruz, and San Benito. AMBAG recently certified and adopted the final environmental impact report at their meeting last week. As I mentioned, so AMBAG is the lead for developing the program level EIR. It evaluates the impacts out to 2050 on the physical environment, again, at the program level, which means that as a programmatic EIR gives coverage for the plan itself, but as individual projects move forward, those would require project level environmental impact reports to look at the specific impacts from those projects. So there's still another level of environmental review that goes on as projects are further developed and refined. As I mentioned, the EIR serves as the environmental review for our RTP here today, and it analyzes the range of impacts resulting from future developments and improvements to the transportation network. That EIR, I'll mention, also went through a similar environmental public review period. I believe it was about a 74-day public comment period. AMBAG received comments, made final adjustments and updates to the EIR, and that's what was ultimately adopted by AMBAG at their meeting. So as TAMC, as a responsible agency, utilizing that EIR for our regional transportation plan, the 2 actions before you today, one is to adopt the resolution 2026-08 to adopt the CEQA findings, the statement of overriding considerations, and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the EIR, as well as resolution 2026-09, which formally adopts the 2026 Monterey County Regional Transportation Plan. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Any comments or questions from the board? I don't see. So I did have one question. Earlier in the consent agenda, there is an item talking about the 250 Build America Act, which is replacing the IIJA, the federal item. I just wanted to know if the federal item does not pan the way that we expect it to go, and TAMC does not receive the funding it expects to receive from the federal front, are we going to amend this?
So the regional transportation plan is updated every 4 years. So actually, one of the jokes is that once we adopt this, we start working on the next one. There's actually about a 6-month gap that we take off, and then we start working on the next program again. And so if there's any changes in federal funding, if there's any federal reauthorization bills that are passed or change or don't pass, anything at the state level, at the local level, we reassess all of those evaluations as we go through the process again. If there's any major modifications that impact the current document that need to be adjusted, we can bring back an amendment to the board to do that, but typically those are just captured as we do the next update.
Got it. All right, thank you. Yes.
To follow up on what you said, Chair, on the funding mechanism, at the state level, MST has been raising the flag regarding a recent ruling at the CPUC, correct me if I'm wrong, Carl, ARB. How they made a change in the allocation of, I should probably let you talk about this because I'm wondering if it directly affects this plan currently, because you've incorporated state assumptions and the state has just made a change. And I don't know how much of those dollars we receive here at TAMC.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, so the Air Resources Board recently, change, mic on, details. The Air Resources Board on May 28th voted to discontinue funding of the greenhouse gas relief fund for projects that support public transportation projects here in Monterey County. Projects that have received past funding include the rehabilitation of the Monterey Bay Operations Maintenance Facility, the SURF Busway and Bus Rapid Transit Project. Some of these funds have gone into TAMC projects. Todd can think of those. We have currently an outstanding application of $10 million for a proposed Salinas operation and maintenance facility. And many more projects are at risk as a result of this. And we have, we have some well-seated representatives in the legislature, with Speaker Rivas being at the table to finalize the budget, as well as John Laird as head of the budget on the Senate side. And even Assemblymember Addis is a budget subcommittee chair. We really need advocacy from our local elected officials to reach out because they have an opportunity to redirect other funds to make up for what ARB has redirected out of this program. But we're down to the last, week or so before a budget has to be adopted at the state level. So I can provide more information in my final comments if you'd like me to, as far as who you can reach out to. But the CalCog and the California Transit Association are leading the charge on this to try to restore the funding that the ARB has redirected to oil refineries and investor-owned utilities.
So Chair, the reason I asked Carl is because I wanted to be clear on what those funding mechanisms are. And I believe some of those do come through TAMC. Were any of those types of funds that were just mentioned incorporated in the state portion of funding?
To the extent that the greenhouse gas reduction funds go through the Senate Bill 125 Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program and just the regular Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program, those are incorporated. I think the key point for how a change like this would affect this plan is that the revenue assumptions that we look at over the long-term period, over the next 25, 26 years, things like this are going to come up where, during the development of the plan, there are going to be, changes in funding opportunities. And as Carl mentioned, there's opportunities for this funding that may go away to be replaced by other funding sources. I think the key point is just to make sure that the projects that we are intending to try to fund and advance are included in the regional transportation plan, and that any changes in funding or funding policy that get enacted, we can capture those in future updates to the plan. So I don't see that it makes a material change to what we've put forward as our forecast and our expectations in this plan.
Okay, thank you. And Chair, maybe as we get to the point of the motion, is just the consideration, whoever makes that, is just the acknowledgement of this current change that may impact us over the next 4 or 5 years before the next plan update.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yes.
I have a question. Thank you, Mike, and your whole crew. And this is a 108-page active transportation plan report. So obviously it's like an encyclopedia that's a resource for us, not just for this year, but it has a lot of information that'll be good for you for a long time. But my question revolves around local streets and roads, and it talks about how in 2022, a needs assessment of county roadways identified a score of 50 on our county roadways, which is not good, and that 1.5 billion would be needed over the next 10 years. Then it says that this plan before us identifies 3.1 billion. So my question is, how much money in the next 10 years does this plan identify available for our roads and streets toward the 3.1 billion that would be needed to keep them in good repair?
That is a good question. Let me see if I can find that quickly.
I'm looking at page 55 of the report, and it refers later to chapter 3. I guess my point
So-
is, are we woefully deficient in available money to keep our roads or improve our roads? And what can we do about that?
So it is a challenge. What I was looking up is in Appendix B includes the fund estimate, which lists out the different funding sources so that you can, it does talk about which funding sources go towards local streets and roads. So you can see the different funding amounts that go towards those programs. Even with the passage of Measure X, as well as the Senate Bill 1, Local Streets and Roads program, there is still a backlog of maintenance needs that I believe when we were enacting Measure X, it was about $1 billion of backlog needs at that time. And so this is really, Measure X and the Senate Bill 1 programs are really just kind of a drop in the bucket trying to get us towards that so that we can get on better footing. We are going through an update right now to the pavement condition assessment for all the jurisdictions in the county. So we'll have more of that information that comes back as part of the next Measure X annual reports at the end of the year. So we can provide a more updated assessment on that pavement condition index number that you had mentioned. But as far as the funding, yes, there's still definitely more funding that's needed to help us alleviate that backlog.
So if I'm accurate, I think our board needs to know in the fact that in 2018, we had a score of 63 on our roads, which is fair, but not great.
Mhm.
And then in 2022, it dropped to 50. And I think what I'm hearing right now is we still have way underfunding compared to what we need. So is that 50 going to drop even further? And as the graph shows, the further it drops, the more money it costs to catch back up. And so I just want us all to be aware of that if that's accurate.
That is true. I believe the 50 refers to a statewide PCI average, if I recall. I'm looking up
Monterey
the,
County's roadways receive a score of 50
let's see.
on page 55.
Okay, then that reference would be accurate. And your assessment is correct that as pavement continues to decline, it does become more expensive to bring it up to a state of good repair.
Okay, thank you.
And I just wanted to note, as far as fund sources that go towards local street and road repair, the gas tax is a critical issue. And finding a replacement for the gas tax is one of the things we've talked to the board several times. And there is funds that go directly to the cities and the county in addition to Caltrans for repair that comes from the gas tax that unless a replacement is identified and implemented at some point, we're going to continue to have reduced revenues for our road, street and road repair. So another critical issue that is part of the what you brought up, but also that we're looking at in the regional transportation plan.
Thank you.
Sure, one quick follow-up. And I just want to, in the next iteration, I don't know when Measure X comes back up, but it absolutely highlights the fact that Measure X dollars are able to be leveraged in such a way. And if we didn't have Measure X, that 7.9 to 2050, I would imagine would be significantly lower. And that might be something we incorporate in future documents like this of what we're getting, the return we're getting now, and without it, what that would look like. Because back to the road condition, those would be significantly less dollars. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Did you have a comment? Yes, go ahead.
Follow up on comment with the PCI. I know all of the cities, I mean, we're all looking at the PCI and our road conditions and trying to improve that within, you know, our annual budgets with the CIPs and based on our gas tax that's provided and also the Measure X dollars, right? I mean, we have to look at our individual cities and also identify where we're at. Because I know we just went through some of those and being able to include it in our budgets with our infrastructure projects and looking at how do we really make sure that we're addressing the maintenance of those high priority roads so we don't get to deferred maintenance where it's going to cost more, right? So I think that's all I know it's a regional plan, but I think also the individual cities are also providing, already doing some of those infrastructure projects that I think support some of what's already in the report as well.
Yeah, I would just follow up on that to say I would agree because I remember our city, Pacific Grove, had a low PCI about 5 years ago. And the latest one, it improved. And part of it is the Measure X funds that we receive. We allocate some of that for improvements. Part of it is also any new projects that come in, we make it a point to also make the roads better for everyone. So it improves the condition overall. So this particular graph, when I look at it on page 55, it says 2022 PCI. So perhaps the latest and greatest PCI assessment can help with proceedings as we talk through things. But any other comments from the board? And I'll go out to public to see if there's any comments from the public here. Anybody from the room? If not, anybody online? Okay. All right, so I'll bring it back on. Oh, actually, looks like we have a comment here. Mr. Dwight Stump, you go on. Mr. Stump, you have the floor.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I haven't done a lot of research in the Measure X funding, but in the meeting that I was at a while back with Supervisor Daniel, I thought the county maintenance person that was there, I forget the person's name, had said that Measure X funds were restricted to maintenance at a certain percentage and that the remaining balance of the Measure X funds would only be applied to new projects, which of course some of us in the public feel are somewhat misguided at times. So is there am I correct in that there is a restriction of the amount of Measure X funds that can actually go to maintenance of roads? And can that be changed? And I'm not even sure how it was set initially, but the question would be, can that be changed to address what was talked about before as a increasing need for maintenance? And, you know, as a person in the public, it seems like that was the main reason that Measure X was passed in the first place, that people were feeling that Measure X funds were going to really help with maintenance. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anything else from the board? Yes.
I think we just went through this at Seaside about 2 weeks ago. Well, I guess at our last meeting, we adopted our, road maintenance plan. And we're all struggling to keep our numbers high or stabilize them. And Measure X has been very helpful. And so I just put that on the record. That's been very helpful to my community. So the money is helpful. I really wanted to say that less money is coming in from the federal government, coming down through the state, coming down to all kind of stuff. So it's going to be tough. to maintain these roads. And I think TAMC is doing a good job. I think all the cities are doing a good job with a little bit of money that we have for the expense that the roads are nowadays to keep them up. So I just want to put that on the record. Measure X is doing the work that it was intended to do on behalf of those that voted for it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can't imagine how this meeting would have progressed without Measure X's, but thank you for all the comments. So this is we do need to have a motion here. So yeah, go ahead.
That we approve the agenda staff reports, and when we get decided right, that we.
Do you want to turn the mic on?
That we approve the 2026 Regional Transportation Plan. Step 1, adopt resolution 2026-8 and adopt resolution 2026-09.
Okay, any second? Okay. Anybody else wish to make a comment or? Okay. All right, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
District 1, Supervisor Alejo. District 2, Supervisor Church.
Aye.
District 4, Alternate Pawnee.
Yes.
District 5, Supervisor Daniels.
Aye.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
Yes.
City of Delray Oaks. City of Gonzales. City of Greenfield.
Aye.
City of King City.
Aye.
City of Marina.
Aye.
City of Monterey.
Yes.
City of Pacific Grove.
Aye.
City of Salinas.
Yes.
City of Sand City. Aye. City of Seaside.
Aye.
City of Soledad. Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And thank you all for your comments. Okay, from approving that, we're going to now, it looks like this was somewhat logically sequenced. We're going to see who's going to fund it, which developers are going to fund it. So 2026 Regional Development Impact Fee Nexus Study Update. Go ahead, Aaron.
All right, good morning, members of the board. Aaron Hernandez, Transportation Planner with the agency. This item, it's not there's no action, but we would like your input on the draft visual fee schedule scenarios that we will present shortly. So we are doing the Regional Development Impact Fee Nexus Study update. This update used to be done every 5 years, and now we're doing it every 8 years as part of updates from the Mitigation Fee Act program. The Regional Development Impact Fee program is one of our local funding sources that we charge developers as they build new projects to help mitigate traffic impacts through by funding our regional traffic congestion projects. The program was established in 2008 from the board as a joint powers agreement with our local jurisdictions, and our local jurisdictions collects these impact fees for us, and then they remit the funds to us so then we can use them on our regional projects. We've been working on this Nexus study for a little over a year now. We selected and hired Kimberly Horn as our consultants leading this process. And we have been in discussions with them throughout this Nexus study, and as well as our technical advisory members from each of our jurisdictions in identifying projects for the update, and as well as reviewing potential eligible costs that can be charged through this program. So I'm going to pass it over to our folks at Kimberly Horn. We have here online Chris Gregerson, who will be giving the presentation on the update. So I'll give it to you, Chris.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. Good morning, Chair and members of the board. As Aaron mentioned, I am Chris Gregerson with Kimberly Horn, and I'm going to be presenting on the work we've been doing in updating the regional fee program. So just some background. The fee program was established in 2008 and last updated in 2018. So we're at our 8-year cycle now. So the program reflects regional travel over the next 20 years or so, and the program coordinates with the local fee programs. So for this update, AB 602 was passed back in 2021, and it added several requirements to fee programs. So we'll be going through that. I mentioned it's an 8-year update. Not only are we looking at level of service, but we're also looking at safety in terms of deficiencies in the projects that we'll add to the list, as you'll see in a few slides here. So we reviewed the project list from 2018, made some modifications. We'll go through that, and then calculate and review the fees before we come back to the board with the updated fees. So just some background, we use the AMBAG travel demand model to look at growth over the next horizon year, which is 2045, so 20 years from now. So what you see on the screen here, household growth and employment growth by the 4 zones that are included in TAMC's regional program. So you can see here that the Peninsula South Coast, or Zone 3, is the dominant growth for both household and employment, with the Greater Salinas Zone comprising the second largest component. When we put those together and look at the trip growth, the pattern is roughly the same, with 52% of the trip growth. So those are the vehicles driving throughout the county, originating from the Peninsula South Coast Zone and the Greater Salinas Zone. So when we break those out into land use types, so we use the AMBAG travel demand model, we put in the growth and use that to determine what the daily trip growth is. And we look at it by zone again, breaking it out by land use type. So we have residential for the households, and then the different employment categories for the non-residential. Consistent with the 2018 program, we do take a 50% trip reduction for wholesale and retail to account for trips that are already on the network. And we end up with a combined total trip growth of 134,000, just a little bit more. And then we also added on there, you'll see at the bottom, the 2018 trip growth was roughly 112,000. So we are seeing just over 20,000 more trips over the horizon year compared to the 2018 program. So I mentioned we went through a review of the project list and made some modifications. We made some additions primarily related to safety, and made some reductions for projects that have been completed or are mostly completed at this point. So what you see here in the start of the table is the project cost in 2026 dollars. So we put those in today's dollars to calculate. And then we have, what we do is a fair share analysis. So we look at the trips that travel along these improvements and make the determination, because the Mitigation Fee Act states that growth can only pay for its proportional share. So they're not paying for the full project cost, but their proportionate share. So we use the AMBAG travel demand model to do that as well. And so what you see in that right column is the eligible share of that total project cost that the program can charge fees for. So when we multiply that eligible share by the project costs, that's what we get for the total eligible fee. And then working with TAMC staff and reviewing that, we did determine that we wanted to cap the SR 156 project eligible fee at 5 million versus the 22 million that would be eligible, just based on discussions and funding and things like that. So when we break those fees out to the 4 different zones, we get the totals that you see here. And then obviously with the Greater Salinas and Peninsula South Coast comprising the majority of the growth, they have the majority of the fee. So when we calculate the max fee per trip, we basically take the project cost and divide it by the number of trips that development produces. And so you'll see on the right-hand column there, roughly the maximum fee that we could charge would be $2,500 from that 332 million total cost. If you look in the green rows, you'll see that from the 2018 program, the fee was $1,200. That wasn't the maximum fee. That's the current fee per trip that's being used. So right now, the maximum that we could charge is roughly 2.5 times what was being charged. And so, as Aaron mentioned, we wanted to get some direction from you on different scenarios. So I'm just going to go through a few scenarios that we've put together to get some direction from the board. So scenario one is if we take the 137 million, that was the total eligible cost from the 2018 program, which is 41% of the max eligible cost, that 332 million I mentioned earlier. That would be scenario one. Scenario two is if we, to account for project cost increases since 2018, we add 20%. So that gets us to 164 million roughly, or 50%, 49%, 50% of the max eligible cost. Scenario three brings us up to roughly 200 million, or 60% of the max eligible cost. That would be an increase of 46% over the 2018 eligible cost. And then scenario four, roughly 250 million, 75% of the max eligible cost, or an 82% growth over the 2018 eligible cost. So summarized here in this table, so adding to the table that I showed previously, this is where we want to get some direction. So if we take those four scenarios, you can see in the gray rows here, scenario 1, 2, 3, and 4. Scenario 1 and 2, so roughly 41% and 49% of the max eligible cost, gets us a fee per trip that are below what we have from the 2018 program, whereas scenario 3 and scenario 4, a little bit higher, obviously not as much as the 2,500 per trip, but we wanted to give you a range because obviously the lower the fee per trip that we use to then calculate the fees, the fewer fees that are collected. So it's really a balancing act between development costs and being able to fund the projects that are in the project list. So wanted to get some direction there. So in terms of next steps, so choosing the eligible cost amount, we have to have that choice so that we can then calculate the fees by land use type, which you can see here is step 2. And then we'll be updating the regional fee schedule and nexus study, bringing that back to the board for approval, and then going to the city and county for approval. And that's my presentation. I'll turn it back to Aaron.
And expected board adoption is in our board meeting in August. So I'll leave it at that.
Yep. I'm gonna head back to this table here.
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you, Chris. I'll open it up for board comments. Go ahead.
Excuse me. Thank you, Chair. This is extremely frustrating. And I got to say, we need to look at different ways to calculate this, because what I am seeing is the people who have to live the farthest away from the job centers, the people who have to find the lowest cost housing are the ones that are going to be charged the most because there's not enough trips. And that's frustrating. There is no way in hell I'm going to vote for the South County numbers to raise up. In fact, they should be dropping. Those things prohibit the ability for us to have development. Those costs prohibit us to get developers in to build more housing. So this is antithetical to any of the progress we're looking for. And it reflects decades of past negligence of improvements within areas where there wasn't as much population or wasn't as much travel, and now we're playing catch up. I remember going through on these fees years ago when I first got on council to get our development fees down because they were a hindrance in finding those developers to come into town. These fees, one is no way we're going up to, if that's 24 for us, no way. a lot of our residents in South County work on the peninsula, and they're gonna get charged more now to go to their jobs because they can't find housing over there. And that is not any fault of any of the cities on the peninsula. They've been doing their damnedest. But that is the reality. So my recommendation is we lower the numbers. We encourage growth in our area. And forget about this and ask that we find a different way to calculate that does not punish those who have to find and live the farthest from the job centers and are already struggling. Remember, in addition to that cost to get a new house, that person who buys that house with those additional fees involved with it will also pay more in gasoline. So they're paying more in gasoline tax than those that would be closer where the number is less. So they're getting taxed twice and they're paying more than their share. So this really bothers me, but that's my comment.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And I have to agree with Mike in terms of looking at the numbers. I don't know if there's another formula that can be used, because when you look at South County and you look at the population, but you look at the number of trips and you're counting the number of trips of in the peninsula, the number of people that are coming to work and commute out from our cities, I mean, those numbers are significantly high. We have a lot of people that commute out to work, and a lot of those are commuting to the peninsula. So we're not getting counted for those numbers, for those trip numbers. So I don't know if the formula can be modified and changed. And then when you look at the proposed projects that you want to, that are going to be proposed, there's only, with the exception of the Gonzales overpass, right? The Fifth Street Exchange program, and some of the south of Salinas, but further out from our area. I mean, it doesn't, there's not equity, and we talk about equity on this board, and I've heard it a couple of times already, and it seems like there is no equity in terms of the South County communities, and more cost to them, but less projects, yet they still have to pay. So I don't know if there's another way that this formula can be equitable to all of the residents in Monterey County, where South County doesn't disproportionately get impacted.
Understood. Any other comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my hands around how this plays out all the way down to in industry. So if I'm looking at the AMBAG trip growth and the daily trip growth and the zones, and then the industries, as an example, wholesale, it's a broad category. Delivering, does this mean delivering wholesale to a business location, the $744 for Peninsula South Coast, Zone 3 is a chargeback somehow. So somebody explain to me how a $744 daily charge is charged back to a wholesaler and how that plays out in the fee the wholesaler has to pay. I need some help understanding this. I know the numbers are big, but explain to me how that plays out to the actual provider of the service in a category of wholesale, which is $744 per trip. That's a question. Maybe we want to take everybody else's questions first. I don't know.
Sure. And by any chance, do you know, is there a page number for that?
Yes, it is page 159. I think it's one page after the pie charts. So page 159, I'm looking at what's called AMBAG trip growth.
I think those are number of trips, Ed, not dollars.
Yeah. So that's where I need help. Is this the calculated on that saying, AMBAG is saying that's the number of trips that are coming from wholesale on a daily basis? And then how does that transfer over to a fee that's collected?
Yes, I was gonna point it out to Chris, if you could provide the explanation for the wholesale.
Yeah, so the wholesale employment category in the model, yeah, what this table is saying is that on a daily basis over the horizon time in the Peninsula South Coast zone, 744 trips are being generated by that employment code. And so the question is, how does that get converted into a fee? So once we have the fee per trip, that gets converted back into fee by land use type. And so it's when generally it's charged by the per square foot, dollar per square foot, and it's distributed out. So that total eligible cost is distributed out to the different categories. So wholesale is 5,100 of those 135,000. So smaller percentage. So it would take the percentage of that eligible cost and then distribute it amongst the 4 fees for the wholesale. So if there is a new business that falls in the wholesale category, depending on the size, it would pay its fee when it gets its certificate of occupancy. So it's just a one-time fee to pay into the program to account for the trips that are generated by that business.
Okay, and then follow-up question. That means that that fee is paid through the building fees that are assessed on the new build. So if someone wants, go ahead.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so if somebody says, I want to build a warehouse close to Delmont Shopping Center along Highway 1 on the peninsula, and there's a warehouse, it's going to be based on the square footage, and then it's the fee is charged for the build, and the city would collect that as the issuing agency where the build is occurring, and that's through the building permit process. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, so I think that's to support what Mike was talking about, is the ultimate deterrent is why would they build something that is so expensive in addition to what they're already paying for sewage and water and local costs for a building permit. So this is a big one to really think about. And I appreciate, Mike, you bringing it to the point where it's a built-in deterrent for any potential progress across Monterey County. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick questions from me based on what I'm hearing. One is, I just want to, just in simple terms, I just want to understand, is the per trip cost from 2018 and 2026, has that gone up, and by what factor? Do we know that?
Yes, so right now in the current fee program, it's from the 2018 Nexus study. So right now we are charging a fee per trip, the total 2,416 that we see here. But since that last update, project costs have gone up. So that has increased our total eligible cost that we can charge to the fee program. So the maximum being 300 and, well, from the 2018 study, it was 137 million. Now we have the option to charge up to 398 million. So it's a huge increase because of project costs. Hence, that's why we present these scenarios as lower amounts to consider.
Okay, so just going on this graphic, right? Like, so that's 1224 is the per trip cost in 2018. We're projecting 2026. The per trip cost is 2469. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. And then just a couple of things I heard here is understanding if the formula can be changed. This isn't, I suspect that this is not only done in Monterey County, but other counties too, an RDIF, collection and assessment. Chris or Aaron, can you tell me if, like, can the formula be changed? Is this a static formula that you have to maintain over the course of time?
I guess I would defer it to Chris if Kinley Horn's experience working with other agencies, if that has been an explored possibility.
Yeah, it is a policy decision where you could state that it's not set in stone where this has to be the fee charged to any one zone. You could make the policy decision that we want to help out on equity terms or for other incentives, that we want to lower the fee for a certain zone. You'd be collecting less money for the projects, but you're offsetting that by trying to promote development in that zone. So that would be an action that the board could take.
Okay, thank you for that. I just wanted to mention, I'm going to go back to the board here, is that ultimately Monterey County, just like California for that matter, housing is the critical piece. And so we need to do what we can to help housing in this entire county. And I'll leave it at that, but any other comments on the board? Go ahead.
Yeah, the developer impact fees that we're talking about, do they go to local roads and highways, et cetera? So if you build a lot more housing and you bring a lot more people and you have a lot more cars on the road, and our roads are already in bad shape, the roads get more wear and tear. And as far as I can tell, this is one of the main ways we fund road maintenance. So we just heard the road maintenance, we need 3.1 billion. We have 1.4 billion. So if we minimize this, to the extent that we do lower this, we're making that gap worse. So yeah, we need houses, but then if you don't maintain the roads, the people that live in the houses aren't happy with the roads.
Yes, go ahead.
Forget about it, really.
Microphone, shouldn't I? It kind of, creates a conundrum here is one is, yeah, we build houses. The problem is if there's people coming in from outside the area, then you're having that larger gap. But we obviously have a real need for housing here. So, there's a real challenge. If we're providing housing for people already here, it's not actually putting more people on the road. The problem is it's a lot of houses that are being built are being used by people that are coming in. And I am concerned about this. It just adds extra fees on for housing and it makes it more difficult to build, to make it more affordable for people that live here, which you need the affordable homes. So we throw these fees on, it makes it less affordable for people here. And then it encourages, I don't want to spill my coffee, encourages people coming in. So we're in a real kind of a catch-22 issue here.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
So I have just one question before I make some comments. So when you broke down the different scenarios and you got the max eligible, am I to understand that scenario 4 is the one that brings us closest to covering the need?
That brings it closest to the total eligible cost that could be charged. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple different questions. I'm wondering why Highway 101 isn't considered in the same way that 156 is, where there can be a cap because it's regional. The 101 corridor project seems like a regional project that benefits the entire region.
Mm-hmm. And are you referring to the total?
I'm trying to understand the 156 cap on Highway SR State Route 156 Castroville Boulevard interchange and the capped total eligible fee. Could you do the same thing with the 101 project and would that make a difference?
I go over. I could explain first and Todd, if you want to add anything. So the determination for the cap for the 156, the 5 million, that is because I believe we have now collected about 20 million in fees for that project.
Already, okay, understandable. That makes sense. Okay, then my questions just are, wondering if there's any funding that's tied to equity that we could look at that instead of changing the formula to offset the burden that we're hearing about in Region 4.
Mm-hmm. Well, as Chris mentioned, there are, so given the feedback, we can look at reevaluating the formula of how it's distributed by benefit zone and take a more equitable approach.
So I'm actually saying not recreate the formula, but is there a way to look at outside funding sources, like federal funding sources that exist today for equity funding that could offset the burden that we're hearing will exist in Region 4?
I'll take it, Aaron. So the calculations that we see here today are all very formulaic based on the trips that are eligible for future, based on what future development will be taking, trips created by that. And in which zone is using the specific projects that are included in the list. So one of the past cycles, so this was adopted in 2008 and then renewed in 2018, and now we're at the third renewal. In the past, we've reduced fees by zone by taking projects out and reducing the number of trips associated with the current zone. So that's why there's a small number of projects in the South County, because there used to be interchanges in each of the South County cities that really pushed the fees up for South County. And by taking those projects out, it's reduced the fees. So that's how it's been done in the past.
Okay.
What you're asking is, can we find other money to fund these? We're already assuming that there will be other money coming to these projects and funding them. So,
Which would bring the total cost, the impact fee need down.
well, we are assuming that the regional fees will produce a part of a needed cost to build a project. And if the board adopts a scenario like scenario 1 or scenario 2, all of the scenarios assume it's less than the max that could be charged. So if it's a scenario 1 or scenario 2 at the lower range, we have to find more other funds to get the projects funded.
So and I'm sorry that this is so confusing. This is the first time I've been through this update, or maybe I was here last year, but it's all a blur. But the other question I would have then, is there a way to break up Zone 4 so it's not as large? Would that have an impact? So projects aren't required, or projects aren't subject to the development fee.
So it won't really change the impact because there's a countywide analysis of where the trips are taken from each of the zones. And if you divide one of the zones in half, there will still be trips taken from those new zones that will use some of the other projects around the county.
Okay, last question. Is there any sort of tiered impact fee schedule that could be applied to different housing types? So if it was an affordable housing project, if it was a missing middle housing project, as opposed to just a market rate?
There are reductions to the fees based on those types of criteria. I don't know if Aaron, you want to cover those?
Yeah, so in our current fee program, we do charge, typically single-family homes get the highest charge, but for like more affordable or multi-family types of developments, they get a lower charge. We also encourage infill fee developments, so those get discounts. And then in addition to this update, as part of one of the requirements in the Mitigation Fee Act, we are no longer charging, we're going to no longer charge residential projects based on the number of units built, but more so the total square footage as part of those. That was the change from the Mitigation Fee Act.
Okay, well, that's all the questions I have, other than to just echo what Mayor Delgado said, that I'm absolutely open to figuring out a way to make this equitable, but also recognizing. And so however we reapportion it or spread it out differently or modify it, I'm open to all of that. But if we don't apply the fees, the gap grows.
Question, partly a follow-up, but kind of new. I agree with, if I was a South County mayor or any mayor, I would want this to be fair. So I want it to be fair, whatever we do. The 4 scenarios we have, it's my understanding that the highest development impact is scenario 4, which which gets us 75% of the maximum eligible cost. My question is, if it was 100% maximum eligible cost, would that meet what this assumes the cost to the roads, et cetera, are from those new developments?
Yes, so that's assuming that we would entirely charge the eligible share of the projects straight to the developer.
Okay, so what that's telling me is if there's a development and we go with scenario 4, we the locals take care of 25% of the cost impacts on roads, et cetera, and the developer takes care of 75%. So it's already kind of, we're putting on our shoulders, because we like the benefits of the development, 25%. If we were to go to a other scenario, 50% or less, we're just asking ourselves to find more money within our jurisdictions to pay for the impacts of those new developments. And as Supervisor Church says, a lot of these folks are not from here. So they come here, they buy a market rate house, and they don't have to pay as much development fees, because today we're saying we want to pay more of those development fees. But to the people that are local, they're paying high development fees, or they're not getting the developments because the developers want to go somewhere else in the country where the fees aren't so high. But I'm really in favor of scenario 4, because that doesn't cover all the development impacts, financial obligations. We're still saying we'll pay 25%, even though we could charge you more to actually fund the impact you're causing. But we're going to pay 25% of your impacts. You're going to pay 75% of your impacts. And if we do anything different than that, we're asking ourselves to find more money within our cities to pay for those development impacts. That's a different issue than the equity. I hope that what we do has the equity so that every mayor, every jurisdiction, it has a fair fee.
Okay, just go ahead.
So, and I appreciate the discussion, but I believe that you're looking at this in the wrong way. If a fee is too high, you'll reduce development. Only so many will accept that risk. At a lower fee, you may receive more development and actually receive more dollars coming in. The road portion is just an estimate of what may happen, but the fee that is decided is something that is absolute, that will be attached to every development going forward. At the current rate, and going back to the warehouse analogy from Ed, somebody could build that warehouse in the peninsula and their impact would be $700 per square foot. Why would they come to South County to build a warehouse when their impact, and I'm using the old numbers, $1,212 a square foot, almost twice as much on that fee? The project that were cut in South County originally to lower our development fee, that showed a benefit because we saw more dollars coming in because we had more development, were projects there was no way it was going to be funded because they were just too big and there wasn't enough people down there. So the projects that our shares are being applied to, our portion, are projects that really we're paying the bulk of it. If you wanted to be truly equitable and truly find a way to find that middle ground, every number for every region should be the same dollar. That is how you create an equal playing field for everyone. We mitigate the need. We do need to receive dollars in because there are road impacts, and I agree with that. But this is a policy decision. And this exercise shows that sometimes formulas and prior policies are not applicable now in the real world. We go with a lower number, or at least make the numbers, if you want to raise it, just go a straight grand. Everybody, everything. And then we can look at the next cycle. Do we raise it a few points? Do we add 10%? How much money was actually received in? What does that development look like? The other thing we have to realize too, that we use our revenues from a county or city level, is our sales tax and our gas tax dollars. So when someone buys a home in our area, even from out of the area, they're more than likely shopping in the local store, at least a grocery store. They're more than likely buying their gas in the morning before they leave to work out of our area. So we're receiving other revenues. And in my last comment, and I'm sorry I belabored this, if they have children, their children are more than likely going to one of our schools in our county, which those school dollars which follow that child come in and benefit our school district. So there are other revenue enhancements that are coming through. I would definitely encourage if we need to come up with a number that's not lower, that across the board for every region, we're the same. And then reevaluate the amount of revenue that comes in and what was that compared to the projection of this formula. Thank you.
Yes, sorry.
So I'm glad we're having a, real good discussion here. I think there's a lot of different issues on there. I mean, and part of the thing is I'm going to go back to some of the comments like the warehouse, for example. We're trying to deal with trips, and yet, we're encouraging a business to build in an area where it's going to be easy to build one business and it's going to be cheaper. And then the workers are going to have to travel a long distance and they're going to get charged more. So I think we kind of got a little bit backwards here. And I guess, what I'm looking at here, and I want to understand, Aaron, you mentioned that there's various factors that come into play on what are being charged. For example, you said square footage was one. So are you able, I don't know if you're able to give me any rough figures here, but if you're looking at it, say, for example, an 800 square foot ADU and a 3,200 square foot home, can you provide me, and I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but rough idea of what those cost impacts would be?
So I think what I could give you is the example with the ADUs. We in our current program, actually, since ADUs are fairly still new, we incentivize if smaller ADUs are built. So if ADUs are below 750 square feet, they don't pay the fee because of how small they are. If people are adding like ADUs onto their property that are significantly above the 750, then we just do proportion by that. I would say like in South County, well, using the single family home example in South County, I think it's like about roughly 2,000 to 3,000 to build a single family home that they would pay the fee for in South County.
And then for a larger home, what would the cost be? It was 2,000 or 3,000 for us. You say smaller home, like what? When you say smaller, what size?
Oh, yes. So right now the fee program, it's only charging based on the number of units. So the number of units for like a single family home, it's applied the same fee. But it will change though for this update based on the number of square footage. So we could like have like, for example, a tiered system where depending on the number of square footage, it could be charged a certain fee amount.
So I really think it's an important issue here. And I think, if we want to deal with something where we're providing housing for people here, we really need to have a lot lower fees onto that. And I would really encourage that we develop up exemptions and a process here where somebody's building a 1,200 square foot home, they're less likely to be coming in from the Bay Area to retire down here or to build, to work down here, because they're probably looking for a bigger home. And I think you're going to find that the more affordable homes, anything that's designated as lower income or just a smaller home, we should really have a minimum of, if hardly, maybe not even any a fee on some of these, and really make up that difference and impose it on the bigger ones, on the bigger homes. 3,000 square foot home isn't going to be the one that's really providing a lot for what our housing needs are. Our housing needs are low and middle, not upper income. And so, let the more expensive homes, the people who have the money, the people who are going to come in, or the people that live here with the money pay for that, while letting the people that don't have these resources have some cheaper homes. And these are the people that live here. So, I mean, I think we need to change how we're looking at this as well and how we're applying these fees. not just looking at it as a, cross for every single family home.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just, my last comment on this as well, in terms of in terms of looking at the formula, looking at the equity and what we can do. I mean, if it's a policy decision and we can come back and review that, I think it takes more time. I really appreciate the discussion, but I think it really takes more time to really look at the different factors. And I don't think we're gonna do that here with the time that we have in the other items that we have. I would like to bring it back for further discussion to really look at how do we achieve that. And I just want to say, we just went through this whole conversation with the cities and some of our jurisdictions where we're dealing with developers and having to comply with the VMTs. And within our jurisdictions, we're already at a disadvantage in that point. And we had a development that took extra 2 years, and it was a housing development that obviously, as we're talking about, housing is needed. But because of the compliance with the VMTs, because they had to do extra environmental reviews, because they had to mitigate the VMTs, it took extra 2 years, extra money and extra time. And we need the housing now. We need those developments now, and to take that into consideration and looking at extra fees attached to that. I mean, I think it really requires a more in-depth conversation in terms of how do we really make sure that if we're really looking at what we need in terms of bringing in and supporting that construction that we need in Monterey County, but also looking at how do we make sure that we have the road improvements that we need as well, and really being balanced and equitable. I think it really needs a different discussion to bring back. And maybe on the list of projects, maybe do we need all the list of projects? I mean, can we tailor those projects down? Is that is that also a possibility? So those are my comments. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to underscore some of the themes that we've heard today. Absolutely agree with Mayors Velasquez and Labar about the equity concerns being raised. And I'm hearing several different ways that we may be able to take a closer look at that. And I think we should take the time that we need to do so, whether it's redistributing the burden across the zones, incentivizing the kinds of housing projects this community needs, or looking at outside sources to mitigate the inequities. At the same time, as others have said, we absolutely need to preserve the funding for many, most all of the projects on that list. We already have roads that are teetering between fair and poor in their conditions. And as we've heard earlier, we're looking at projected declines in federal and a precipitous decline in state funding moving forward. And so we really need to preserve the funding streams that we have to have the community we want. I think I heard earlier that this structure is not an outlier. Maybe we could ground truth that question with a little bit more research. Because if this is similar to what other regions, at least in California, are doing, then I don't know that we really should think that it will make us less competitive for development here. Poor road conditions also make us less competitive for housing developers, so we need to keep that in mind. So I think within the existing scenarios, my feeling is we shouldn't go too low. Scenario 1, I'm hearing concerns that we can't go too high. I think within the existing scenarios, we need to look toward the middle, scenarios 2 and 3. But if it's possible to go back and answer some of these questions and bring forward some other options, I think that's the best course.
For when we return, what I'm hoping we can bring back, I'm not sure what the next, I mean, I know you have a next step slide, but I don't know when we're going to see this again. But if it's possible to take the different scenarios and to get rid of the different zones in terms of the different amounts and have it just be even across with every scenario, just so we know what that number would be if it were split across all 4 zones evenly, assuming the same number for each. So for scenario 4, the million spread evenly across the 4 zones. I'd love to see those numbers. And then also, if you could next time just elaborate on the tiered system that exists today and how that might actually be expanded in terms of different housing types. That would be super helpful. And I just want to reiterate what I've heard today, like, and I can't speak for any jurisdiction other than District 5, but we are not building housing for people who live here, like full stop. And so if that's happening anywhere else, the tiered system would go a long way to incentivizing the type of housing that we need for the folks who actually live here today.
Just to note that that average across all the zones is on the far right in the total. So when you're looking at the fee per zone per trip by fee zone, that's listed in the middle, and then the far right is the total, which is the average for those zones. So
2, 3, 4, got it. Okay.
and I'm hearing a lot of good comments and feedback and concerns. And as far as what we bring back in August, I think we need to bring back some examples and showing how the various discounts and things are calculated on kind of a particular different types of units. So whether it's a large single family home or an ADU or whatever different scenarios, we can show how that square footage calculation is done and how that impacts different types of projects. But you have that calculation as far as if you wanted to average it across and make it the same across all zones, you do have that information right there.
Thank you.
I won't be long. I just want to associate that I agree with what Mayor Labar said, and I agree with Supervisor Daniels about seeing what that equitable approach of all zones being the same. But I think that the column to the right, I don't think it's accurate. It's not the median age. I mean, the median amount for when you add up all 4, and then you divide that by 4. I think it's higher. Instead of on scenario 1, for example, instead of being 1,016, I think it's more like 1,197. So anyways, just double check those numbers. But at least when this comes back, that's why,
Thank you.
that's where I'm aligning my comments.
Thanks. I see this coming back once or twice. I mean, everything you guys laid out, I mean, we have to go back to the basics because we have some people talking about how do we adjust the projects. If you're talking about adjusting the projects to save some money, then that changes the percentages and the scenarios. So that's what I'm looking for is really, I think the board needs to shape what are we open to, meaning how much money we're willing to spend. You have to start with that because these scenarios and tiers are based on the projects you want to pay for. And so if we're talking about saving $100 million, $200 million here, then that may change some of the costs that each one of us are willing to support. I understand equity and things like that. And I'll just end with, what are we going to trade? And I'm open to everything. I want more, workforce housing, middle income housing, the missing middle, as they call it, right? We need that. And they need to be closer to where people work, and we need to create jobs closer to where people live. But then that means not a lot of money for the roads. So we just have to acknowledge that is it more important to get more people in here and let them establish themselves in some type of housing or is it more important to have a higher rated road? That's just the bottom line. You can't have both. But that's a policy where we have to say we're willing to kick the can on some of these projects because we want more people to be able to afford to live around here. And that's why I mean it's going to be more than 1 or 2 meetings because some of those things we had to vote for individually about our concerns and our thinking as we move into how we pay for it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Very thoughtful discussion. Appreciate everybody's feedback. And I just wanted to say that, Todd, I wanted to ask you, like, is August like a set deadline for this to be addressed, or can this be addressed over 2 meetings?
Aaron, we're supposed to have the update done by August, but do you know the actual implications of not getting it done by August?
I'm not too quite sure with the new Mitigation Fee Act if they have specific requirements, but August has been historically our month where we adopt it in past studies.
Mike might have also have some comments.
I can just say that when we went through the fee update the last time, we did update the Nexus study at the August meeting, but then there was some board discussion and questions, and we came back with an amendment at the September meeting. So there is some precedent that it has gone past August before.
Okay, thank you. Yes,
Very quickly, if we chose a scenario today or at whatever point, and then we did some further deliberation, we can change it as often as we want within reason, right? But my concern is that the longer we wait, developments that are happening, occupancy permits being issued are getting a lower rate than any of us might want. So the longer we take, the less money is coming in that has a nexus to the impacts to our communities.
understood. Yes.
I, again, appreciate the discussion, and I think where I'm feel really comfortable at is where Supervisor Church and Supervisor Daniels had mentioned the fact that I like looking at the same rate for all of us, and then the tiered focus on the housing, because I believe that will address some of our concerns where we need more workforce housing, more lower cost housing. At the same time, the impacts of out of area people moving into. And I think through that process of a same rate and then a tiered portion where the larger square footage, we could meet the needs on the road portion of it. So I would really like to see that come back and kind of really in that focus, because on the business side, having the same rates, it's not the other counties I'm worried about. It's inter-county, making sure we're all the same competitiveness. Because you had mentioned the formula regarding other counties. So my focus has always been making sure that all construction wants to happen in Monterey County, and then anywhere you're getting the same deal. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm just, a final thought here. I'm just curious, like in 2018, how somebody came up with these numbers, because maybe there was a rationale behind like having these numbers at that point. But Todd, I just want to make sure that, and Aaron, like you have what you need for the next steps here, right?
I think we have quite a bit of discussion and that we can provide more material next in August that hopefully lets the board get to a decision point. So we will try to provide information that reflect the questions and comments we received. And I think we have enough information to do that.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, we'll have to allocate some time for this because this is, it's like happens once every 8 years. So we might as well do it right. Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll move on to the next item, which is, Doug, your final item.
Public comment.
Yeah, actually, were there any public comments on item number 6? Sorry. Rushing to you, Doug. Seeing none. Anybody online? Okay, seeing none, I'll close out item number 6 and move on to item number 7. Doug?
All right,
please.
so, yeah, now to the easy one. So, thank you, for taking the time on this item. We've, as you saw before, the more complex, the item is, it takes a little bit more time to digest. So last month, if you recall, we, talked about, the adaptive system on Highway 68, and, we're going to continue on that discussion. So why are we here? There's on Highway 68, and we know this now even with the adaptive that's gone in, there's recurring congestion, the travel time reliability. In other words, can I get to work at, a half an hour or 45 minutes or 50 minutes? It's very variable because of the congestion. The queues spill back past San Bernardino in the morning, and they go all the way through the corridor in the afternoon in the other direction. And there's quite a few rear end collisions, and we're going to take a look at that real quickly. what has changed since we've made a big decision on 68 is that adaptive system is now operating. There's new safety data. So COVID was kind of put a damper on our ability to evaluate recent crashes, but that now we've gotten to a point where we can take a look at last couple of years. Project costs have increased tremendously, as everyone knows. And we're developing a benefit cost analysis. And instead of overloading you today, we're going to break that up and we're going to take more of the project input data or the data that we input to the benefit cost analysis and then bring you the cost analysis on August so we don't overload you today. So with that, we have, as part of our group presenting today, first is Jacob Dominies, and he is the Traffic Signal Operations Chief from District 5. And after him, we're going to have Kamesh Vadula, who's a principal at GHD, who's our on-call consultant. And Azadeh Hadari, I just want to point out our project manager on this has just probably spent more time than all of us put together. Really has been working tirelessly to understand 68 and gather all this information. We're going to try and present it to you so we don't get caught in the weeds. We keep it up at a high level. I'm going to hand it over to Jacob now.
Thank you, Doug. Morning, everyone. As Doug mentioned, my name is Jacob Dominy. I'm the Traffic Signal Operations Branch Chief for Caltrans District 5. I serve as the Caltrans technical expert or technical lead for the implementation of the Adaptive Traffic Signal Control project. So just kind of an overview. This pilot project was implemented, or it implemented MyoVision Adaptive, which is a software that adapts to real-time traffic conditions at 9 of the signalized intersections along State Route 68 between the cities of Monterey and Salinas. This pilot is being conducted to evaluate if adaptive traffic signal timings provide a substantial benefit to the traveling public along this corridor. So today I'd like to give an overview, at least on the current state of the project. So these are some key milestones and events in the past 6 months. We were able to get all of the equipment installed by January 26th or 22nd of this year. But during February, we had a lot of troubleshooting due to some detection issues. And that kind of took a lot of February. In March, we were able to begin adaptive testing, but some staffing took, time off, and a couple of the weeks there, we didn't really make a lot of progress. But April saw a lot of off and on configuration. And by May 4th, we were able to get full adaptive activation, and it's been active ever since. We were able to collect about a month's worth of data before school let out. And so just for the board's reference, we have sort of an influx of traffic in the AM and the PM when school lets out. And so now that we're in the summer months, we have sort of a drop or a lull in the traffic demand. So there'll be more consistent, unfortunately, but more consistent high congestion conditions this coming fall when school gets back in session. And again, that'll be a little better, we'll have the ability to judge adaptive, but we have been able to collect a month's worth of data between May and June while school is still in session. So these are a few of the key performance measures that can be collected on the MyoVision platform. We have made this data available to TAMC staff and we'll be providing a compiled report on an ongoing basis once we've ensured that the data that is collected on that platform is reliable. I also wanted to share the uptick in feedback that we've started to receive concerning this pilot. So customer service requests allow the public to voice concerns about specific situations on the state highway system. This could be any number of things, from like a knockdown tree or litter or graffiti. But for the purposes of this presentation, I was able to get any concerns that related specifically to traffic signals. In the 3 years prior to when we had the pilot project begin, we only received a total of 6 customer service requests for anything traffic signal related. And only in the past 6 months, since the activities of the pilot have begun, we've received 20. And just in the past 2 months, most of the requests have been to adjust timings to reduce the wait for left turns and side streets. So this is data that we actually got off of the MyoVision platform. And it supports sort of that observation that left turns and side streets are having more delay. So this is kind of a breakdown of kind of westbound AM peak, eastbound PM peak. That's kind of the general flow on, the main 2 directions of travel. And we can see that there's been a slight decrease in delay. But when we look at the side streets, we can actually see that there's been an increase in delay. And this is a corridor-wide assessment that we can, or report that we can get off of MyoVision. So these are just kind of the main challenges and concerns sort of to date, and then as we move forward. So because we installed a lot of new equipment, we had a lot of unexpected issues that arose, and we had to resolve them by actually doing a full rewiring of all of the inputs just to get reliable operation of the MyoVision platform. And this has actually become sort of an issue with our maintenance staff who don't currently have the expertise to manage or troubleshoot these new signal controls. And so currently, all operational concerns, like customer service requests, have to be serviced by an operations engineer who's based out of San Luis Obispo. So the local maintenance staff don't currently have the expertise to resolve the issues. Long wait times, as I mentioned, have triggered consistent complaints from left turn and side street users due to the excessive delay. And then lastly, the accuracy of the MyoVision data is still under review due to some erratic traffic counts that we've seen in the months of May and June. But that's it for now. I will pass it off to Mesh with PhD.
Thank you. So now you've heard about MyoVision. That's right there in the bottom. The way we were trying to analyze the corridor was field truth it. I know Doug has taken more travel time runs than anybody else in this room, I bet. Our staff went there and took some data collection too. We have something called Compass, which is an Internet of Things data that goes from your vehicle all the way to the cloud, back to the reporting station, so actual data. So we took all of this data to create a traffic model. And why do we need that? We needed that to understand if there is alternative intersection controls that could be implemented along the corridor that were studied previously to see how they compare against the MyoVision adaptive. So that was the reason why we did all this data collection, is to create a traffic model that simulates what you all feel in the field today. And then, like Doug mentioned, we updated the safety analysis. So what you see here is, if you're traveling along the corridor in the morning peak hour, once you hit San Venancio, it takes about 13 minutes to go all the way to Jocelyn Canyon. That's the travel time that you're getting on a daily basis. In the PM, it could be a 25-minute max, or on average could be about 17 to 18 minutes, depending on when you hit it. We were just showing the max here because I know some people probably experienced that. I did. Now let's talk about what happens before you get to the 13 minutes in the morning, if you're traveling in this corridor. Once you go past the river, so let's talk about that for a second, right? I know I've been there. Everybody that traveled is stuck on this. So you have multiple things happening here. Friction is what I call it. You have the 2 lanes on 68 that drop to 1 lane. There is also the Portola Drive ramp that comes in that drops bunch of traffic. So you sort all through this together. Once you go past that, you're like, okay, thank God. And then you hit Torero Drive, where people that are good people traveling on 68 will say, okay, you're waiting on Torero, you want to go left or right, I'll let you out all of a sudden. So you stop on 68. That'll create a shock wave because everybody's trying to stop, right? So that creates that friction. Then there's also a little bit of traffic at the Ford Ord Monument Drive. That also kind of creates some friction for people getting out and in. So all of this in conjunction with the backup from 68 is creating that 20-minute delay. So your total travel time is about 35 minutes from River Drive all the way to Jocelyn Canyon. That's what you're experiencing. But once you get to these signals, it's a smooth sailing, 13 minutes, any time of the day in the AM. So just wanted to give you a synopsis of everything. And the important thing we believe that could be solved or at least minimized through either the MyoVision or other alternatives is the queue from San Venancio towards the Ford Ord Monument. That is something that we could solve. The other aspects of it probably require a bigger project or cannot be solved. Yes. Go ahead.
So are you average, my colleagues drive this corridor and 33 minutes would be a good day. Are you averaging the entire AM peak somehow? Because I'm not hearing from my colleagues who drive the corridor that they're able to get to work in 33 minutes.
This is an average of over a month. So month's worth of data, plus or minus 35 minutes from river all the way across various platforms.
I'll just say this seems like a good day.
Okay. Let's hope we'll have more good days. So that's the state of affairs on the corridor today from a travel time perspective. And let's get into the safety analysis. What you're seeing here is pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. On an average, you have about, let's say, 90 collisions along this corridor from San Venancio all the way to the west to the west end. So 90 collisions, and we broke this down a little further to understand what happens at the intersections. Well, the biggest statistic is about 25% of them occur at the intersections. So 1/4 of all the crashes are happening at the intersection. So there is definitely a good crash concentration, but I'd like you to focus on the far right-hand side. The three major collision points are Loral's Grade, Corral DTR, and San Venancio. As a traffic engineer, we thought, yeah, we found the solution because Loral's Grade, if you're traveling in the PM, you have congestion, there is collisions happening, but they're also happening throughout the day. So that's where, we'll definitely come back to you in August and figure out why there is collisions happening off peak that cannot be attributed to the backup and everything that's happening. So these are, as you can see, these are the three main concentrations of collisions. And so they'll be subject to further alternatives as we move forward in the presentation. And to give you a snapshot of where they're occurring, as you can see, the big red numbers, 76, 50, and 62, 63, all of those are where you have the significant congestion that people are experiencing on a daily basis, depending on the travel and direction. And the Caltrans will typically take this data, then filter it through their system, and then come up with their own version of their crash database. And they're usually slightly, I think they're up to 2024 right now. So we were able to pull 2025 from other state database sources. So this will likely be updated by August, hopefully, is what our understanding is. And then we'll try to be consistent with Caltrans because there's different databases and Caltrans will want to use their database for their own attorneys and whatever. But usually they're very consistent, within plus or minus 5%. Now let's jump to the traffic modeling results. So as I mentioned, everybody knows pre-adaptive, post-adaptive. We also studied roundabouts in the FAR previously, and then there was a mention of adaptive. So we'll compare these alternatives. And for the roundabouts, what we did that is slightly different than what you've seen before in the FAR was we were just focusing on the three intersections that we felt had a better bang for the buck with respect to safety and operations and delay and mobility. So we felt like if we focus on these three places because of the higher number of collisions, plus that's where the congestion is happening in the time of travel, PM, eastbound at Laurel it's great and a little bit at the other locations in the AM, you all know San Venancio. So instead of studying the whole corridor for 9 roundabouts, we said, okay, let everything else be consistent with signals, adaptive or non-adaptive, but let's just change this to roundabouts and see how that will impact the operations. What you're seeing again is the adaptive and the existing marginal improvement in travel time, as pointed out by Caltrans staff in the AM direction. Again, that's from San Venancio, once you get that signal, all the way to the other end. So that's what the comparison is, because MyoVision's data is from that point to that point. That's why we cut this corridor into different data points that we could compare and assess. With the roundabout, you're getting similar results. 12 minutes, you're shaving a minute of travel time. The benefit you're getting is when we counted what the number of vehicles are coming into the system, that's about 1,300 vehicles. That's what you see at the top, 1,290, so I'm going to call it for all purposes 1,300 vehicles. What the existing signals were able to serve were 1,100 vehicles. That means there is 200 vehicles that wanted to go through in the 1 hour, but they could not go through. So, and that led to almost like 80 cars waiting in the queue. Okay, that's what I want to point out. So if you're wondering why the travel times are similar, this is where your benefits are with various systems you're getting. In the adaptive phase, you're almost pushing 1,200, not almost 1,300 you want to push through, but you're almost getting 1,200 vehicles through, and you still have some cars queued up, almost less than half, right? Now, with a roundabout, if you were to do the hybrids that were proposed, you can push through the traffic and you will have less cars waiting. And again, that's 6 adaptive plus 3 roundabouts. So that's the nuance that I'd like to bring across, what these alternatives are doing. Go ahead, please.
In regards to that nuance, is there any data on just climate impacts? If the cars aren't waiting in the queues, if they're not stopping and going, is that better for fossil fuel emissions or anything like that?
Definitely greenhouse gases, yes.
Okay.
While you have that up there following up. So when I look at this on the 6 adaptive 3 roundabout signals, you're getting a third more vehicles going through, which I'm going to read as that you're actually going to probably bring in more traffic from other side roads. That could be from MGen going over there, could Highway 1. Would that be a acceptable conclusion? So I guess my question would be then, as you look at this, have we looked at what impact it's going to have on other roads? Is it going to reduce congestion over there?
Potentially, but then in the next slide, there is one more bottleneck that I'll bring it up. So that's a key thing here. So remember the 1,300 number. That's what we counted. Okay, that's exactly what's happening today. In ideal conditions, you have the 2-lane drop, you all know that, then it drops to 1 lane, you all experienced that. So in ideal conditions, what Caltrans, TAMC, GHD concluded was you can push through about 1,440 vehicles in 1 hour. That's the ideal conditions. Like if there is zero friction and all things were like occurring like, oh man, this is nirvana, then you can push through 1,440. That's the absolute maximum capacity of that merge that we observed over 6 months. So That's your capacity. So no matter where you want to reroute, that's it. That's all you can serve in the morning at the most. Even though if you see at the bottom, a one-lane highway can typically handle 1,600. This merge is causing, in conjunction with the Q signal from San Venancio, that kind of an effect of 1,440 vehicles max. That's all you can serve. And then with the roundabout, like you could see there, from 1,440, if that's your demand, but that's not what's happening today. So that's 1,300 is what we counted. You got 1,100, you have 100 vehicles stuck in the system. They'll make it in the next 5 minutes. If you were to look at this hybrid roundabout, you could see that if you were to ever get to this true demand, you are able to push everything through in that 1 hour. I'll take a moment for you to absorb this information. I know too many numbers.
I didn't understand what you just said.
Oh,
If you
sorry,
could
no
just do it
problem.
one more time.
Yeah, no problem. So this is what your demand is under ideal conditions, 1,440 vehicles. So if you were to push all that, you can only get 1,200 vehicles in the system according to adaptive, right? That's what we counted. So about 200 vehicles will be stuck in the system. If you were to do this hybrid roundabout that was studied previously, you're able to push the entire system in the 1 hour. So there is not vehicles stuck waiting at the roundabout.
So if I understand you correctly, even though you see a bottleneck where there's that merge, even though the merge still exists, you're saying that those 1,440
Could
are
theoretically exist at some point if things become ideal. Let's say the Torero Park Drive gets realigned or whatever, some improvements could happen, and then all of a sudden you're able to push through. The friction doesn't exist anymore. You're able to pump 1,500, 1,400 vehicles through this corridor. That's the ideal capacity of the merge. But there's other friction points that are making it 1,300
right
in the system, right? So if you were to somehow come up with projects like Doug's brilliance or somebody's brilliance and remove those two friction points, you might be able to serve 1,440. You can't serve more than that is what I'm saying, no matter what we do.
And that was what I was just going to follow up with. So no matter what we do, we're going to still have this congestion.
Unless you fix the merge, which is going to be a big widening project, and we know we're not into big widening projects in the state.
Can you answer one question just to follow up on what Supervisor Church said, though? Does the side street delay change with the roundabout? And it would just be those folks that are coming from either Laureles, San Venancio, or Corral de Tierra?
They will be waiting less than.
Less time.
Yes. Todd, you had something?
We have limitations within the corridor along Highway 68 being a one-lane highway. It shows 1,600 vehicles per hour. So what we're really looking at here is how much, where is the bottleneck, and then whether the intersection can handle which intersection handles the most capacity. My question was, if there wasn't the merge bottleneck of 1,440, what's the max that the hybrid roundabout would be able to handle? Because you're listing the hybrid roundabout as 1,440 plus.
We tested it for 1,440, Todd, and in my professional opinion, I've handled 1,700 plus or minus on hybrid roundabouts.
So then it becomes the intersection not being the bottleneck, it just goes to the one lane.
Roadway being the bottleneck.
One lane highway. Okay, thank you.
If I could follow up real quick with so when you're traveling the corridor, though, the bottleneck where the 2-lane becomes 1 is your first issue.
Yes.
Then you hit the second issue, which is the stoplights, the 3 stoplights. And so on your way to San Venancio, you hit traffic. And so it improves, I think, sort of after just east of Laureles, it starts to improve. But so you're just referring to one of the challenges along the corridor.
Maybe if I could just jump in a little bit. You have to remember, if you're pushing more cars through, you're getting that 3 hours of peak hours down to 2 hours. So Supervisor Church was saying, well, people get pulled out from Imgen. The main thing is you want to push as much traffic as you can through the corridor. And then the first thing is, you get more of the peak 3 hours served in a shorter amount of time. So you're always going to have it until you get to a point, like we're saying, where is the bottleneck now? So we're trying to shift the bottleneck from the intersection back to the merge.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for this. Quick question. It looks like with the roundabout, we're essentially widening that part of the highway into, the equivalent of 6 lanes or more. I'm seeing 2 on each side, plus the medians, plus the extra space. Tell me why, with that project, we couldn't also widen to at least a 2-lane freeway in that little bottleneck area that still says 1 lane? Why can't that widen as well?
I'll go with that. If you look at it now, there's a lot of numbers, but that's not your constraint point. So once you get that roundabout at about, let's say it's 1,600, now you're kind of consistent, 1,600 with 1 lane in each direction through the roundabout. You're no longer worried about your capacity until you get all the way, probably, Pasadena is not a big deal. There's not a lot of traffic. You keep going down when you start peeling off at Ragsdale. So there's, number one, we already did an EIR, and the environmental impact is already very difficult to widen, but I don't think you need to widen. You just want to get the most out of those 2 lanes. You don't want any bottlenecks. You don't want anything shorter than 1,600 if you can. And then you say, you know what, that's all we can do, short of building another road.
But when you look back from the intersection to the merge, I thought your question was whether you could widen it back to the merge and solve the merge problem. Was that your question? And this is just a representation of the project, and it's actually designed to fit into a very constrained, environmentally sensitive location with the Toro Creek going by just to the right side of it. So there are a lot of additional constraints and issues to go, and then there's that squiggly line that shows that it's not representing the actual distance there. There's quite a bit more distance and issues related to the highway that gets from the intersection to the merge.
Thank you.
And so that could be a future project, but that's a big project.
Yeah, thank
I just want to kind of follow up with my comment here a little bit, elaborating, because if we're going to reduce this 3-hour peak down and you get more cars through, let's just say 2 hours. I mean, that probably, it's overly optimistic, but it's a round number. There's still going to be traffic on other roads, and traffic is going to go where the least resistance is. So you're going to pull more traffic in. What's going to happen, and I just think it's where we got to, if you really want to look at the impact long-term, it's going to happen. We'll have to look at it holistically, and you have to look at people are either going to or coming from the peninsula, and there's only so many routes going there. So if this starts to speed up, it's going to pull traffic elsewhere. You're going to pull up more traffic in here. You're going to get back to an equilibrium where people are going to get to or from the peninsula, roughly at the same time, and from wherever they're leaving on all those different routes. And so I just think it's important to take that into effect. And I don't think that's what we're really studying. I think there's an important part in there.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, so if you're reducing or eliminating the congestion at those roundabouts, aren't we just pushing that throughput farther down the road? And if so, where do you envision that happening?
So as Doug just mentioned, the next one is, there's Ragsdale, there's 218. So at 218, you peel off a whole bunch of rights to go northbound on 218. And in the PM, you get lots of lefts from there. So that'll be your next congestion point, if I will. The other 2 intersections are able to handle it because of the insignificant minor street volume. So 218 will likely become, if you're able to push this through, that will be your next bottleneck, most likely in the PM, because AM you have a right turn. Usually it's a free right, I believe there. So you're able to serve it. In the PM you could experience, but it's already what is there today. So in the PM today, you're suffering at, I would say, Loral's grade is where your delay starts today. If you're traveling in the PM, you're about to hit Loral's grade, and that's when we are seeing all the backup occur. In the AM, like I said, that right turn just helps you just remove all of the traffic and the delay, because it's almost like a free ride. So you should be able to accommodate that traffic. with what we have there today.
So you don't envision that
No, I don't.
congestion there at 218 to be maybe what it would be here at
Yeah, exactly.
San Venancio and that merge of those two?
Right. We actually modeled it with that. So we have a model that just shows the 3 intersections today, but next time we could fly all the way through that and then, model how it's going to operate with that right turn.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something I'd like to see, seeing how it's just right outside my city.
Understood.
And I don't look forward to seeing what's going on outside San Venancio.
Push all the traffic there and all of a sudden you're
Absolutely.
congested.
So, yeah, I'd be very interested in that.
Got it.
Thank you.
No problem. Understood.
It's up to you, Chair. Thank you. No, I think we're all interested in seeing all of the potential roundabouts, so I want to be clear about that. It's important. I think the numbers are there. And so I just say we need to spend the time to get us all of the roundabouts and all of the intersections. It's time to move on from just doing a couple. But I'm very supportive of it. It makes sense, the 3 roundabouts. I see that you guys worked out the numbers. But I want people to look at it, and I think maybe you need to explain a little bit clearer and stay on the point about no matter how many people, like we already know the numbers, 4,000 vehicles merge, only 1,400 get through. So that goes back to your point. I may think I'm taking a shortcut. Now it's just 5,000 people waiting. And maybe after about 6 or 7 months, I figure I'll go back to my next route, right? That was the cut in. I thought that was a good point. But I want you guys to look at when you go through the roundabout, those extra vehicles to get to 1,600, to have the ability to go to 1,600 comes from somewhere. And those are those side streets that are able to get into the traffic flow and move through. So they're getting in and we're still going up to 1,600. How do you go up to 1,600 vehicles an hour? It's the roundabout. So there's no way around that. Well, right? There's no way around that. And so that's the value that I see. And then, of course, the accidents and things like that. I just want you guys, how do we get up to the 1,600 flow is the roundabout. So that's where we have to really harp on, which is how you get to that 1,600 from, if it's only 1,400 starting, where did I get 1,600 from? Those side streets and the ability for the roundabout to allow people to integrate slowly but consistently. So thank you for that.
No problem.
Yes.
I wasn't going to ask this, but I don't understand what Ian just said.
Mike?
I don't understand what Ian said. I'm a little confused. I thought with the roundabout, we get 1,440. We don't get 1,600. Is that correct?
Well, I think what Ian was mentioning, if I understood him correctly, is 1440 is the merge demand. Suddenly people try to figure out alternative streets and, try to come in other parallel routes. Like say people get off San Venancio and come up not that way, or more people come on Lawrence Grade and stuff like that. And all of a sudden you somehow realize the 1,600 capacity of the absolute capacity, like Todd mentioned, is 1,600 vehicles on a 2-lane highway. That's like a minimal friction and stuff like that. So if that were to happen, that's what I think Ian is saying. If there's alternative routes and people deviate and somehow come on San Venancio or these minor streets, and if we get to 1,600, by chance, if that happens, this is the only way you can serve that, is what I think Ian is referring to.
Okay, but what your illustration is suggesting is that if we don't do the roundabout, but we do adaptive, we get 1188. If we do the roundabout, we don't get 1,600 unless all this happens, which is kind of speculative, but you're saying we're going to get 1,440.
Because if somehow, again, the queue forming is one of the critical aspects of why we believe, the 1,440 is not getting served. So if we're able to remove the queue, we're like, okay, if the 1,440 can be served, is my professional opinion.
All right. Referring to some questions from Dwight Stump in his comment letter to the board on the agenda. What we're seeing today is a comparison of what before this slide, you showed that 3 roundabouts plus 6 adaptive intersections. And I'm wondering, and sort of what Ian was kind of suggesting, can we see in the future the same kind of numbers comparing 9 roundabouts to 9 adaptive intersections.
Yeah, let me jump in there. We can study this to death, but we don't have the money to do it. So we do have a grant, an SB1 grant in the makings, and that the question was, should we continue designing to get to that grant so that we can get this first phase done, which is 3 intersections? Our philosophy was phase 1, do the west side, phase 2, do the east side. So the next part would be Olmsted, 218, and maybe Jocelyn Canyon. But that middle part, you know, like we were saying, that really, with that we call it HAP signal at Ragsdale in York. When I worked at the city of Monterey, we put that in. That seemed to have solved that problem. That doesn't seem to be a problem. That's the last thing we need to do. We can finesse this, but absolutely, if it works at the worst 3 intersections, these roundabouts are just going to be great all the way through.
Okay.
We could study it more, but I could tell you that without studying and spending time.
Okay, so you're saying no need to give us 9 to 9 comparison because we're going with 3 roundabouts and 6 adaptive intersections
Yeah.
for now.
It'll be better. If your answer is like, it'll be better, is what I could conclude. I think
Okay.
that's what Doug was saying too.
My next question is, are we looking at preliminary data based on a couple months of adaptive data? And in the next 6 months, let's say December, January, might this data tell us something else?
I've done signals. How many years, Mary? So I live signals. I've done them enough. Adaptive is good, but it's not a game changer. And we kind of knew that going in, but we had to put it in to prove it to you. It's not going to get much better. It will adapt a little bit more, but if anything, it's going to revert back and say, wow, this side street is too much delay and I need to take away a little bit of the capacity. It didn't significantly increase the throughput of traffic. And one thing, there's a lot of information, but one thing I would say to take away from this is the maximum flow of traffic happens at a lower speed. That's fluid dynamics. That's just physics. So I don't want to get in an argument. I've had a lot of these arguments with Dwight, but when you go to maximize your travel time, you maximize your speed, you don't maximize your flow. You hold up cars at the first signal and you don't serve as many. So the roundabouts, even though the travel time didn't go crazy great, it flows more traffic. And when you flow more traffic, you just open up a pipe. The pipe doesn't flow any faster, but you're getting more water through it. And again, we could spend years, like, what happens then? Do people come out? Do you peel them off? Do you get, peak spreading is what it's called. And it's just phenomenal what people will do when they travel and they start seeing congestion. But we do know that you don't get to a crawl. You start leaving work earlier, leaving work for later, or getting an alternative route. Toro Park has had this bypass. You just start getting these unintended consequences. So it's kind of hard to put it back together, but I can tell you, the roundabouts give you the biggest pipe. It gives you pretty much a consistent pipe all the way through at about 1,400. And we just live with that and say we've done our best. That's my opinion. That's my recommendation. We've done our best for our community if we get as many roundabouts there, and we live with that.
Okay, last question. We focused on peak times. During non-peak times, either today or later, can you tell us that roundabouts improve safety and through time during the non-peak times?
Yes, and the reason for that is again speed differential. Like at these signals, non-peak time, you can easily travel 55, right? So the collisions that we're trying to avoid through Vision Zero are KSI, killed, severely injured. These are the 2 types of intersections as professionals we are trying to minimize and or eliminate from the system. So signals are the friction points, right? If there is no friction, you don't need to worry about it typically. So with roundabouts, you can only travel maybe at that intersection at 25 miles per hour because the design forces you between somewhere
fast did you say?
25 to 30 miles an hour. That's all you can do, regardless you drive a Lamborghini or Ferrari. That's where the system will be designed. And at 55, even pushing 60 sometimes on a signal, because you see a green and you gun it, and sometimes you see an yellow and you still gun it. So things like that are avoided with the roundabout. So from that perspective, you will minimize those KSI collisions, and that's what the research and the industry believes.
All right, thank you, sir.
No
Thank you,
problem.
Chair. Linda, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to point out on the three on the three roundabout proposed, we're talking about Laurellis, San Benancio, and I'm sorry, the third?
Laurel's great.
In Corral.
Corral
Corral Tierra, okay. So in the future, if we are getting a presentation, if we could highlight the three roundabouts, so the public is certain that what three we're talking about, that will be helpful. Did you say that we don't have collision data yet since the adaptive signal light controlling went into place?
We do not have 2020.
Years.
Yeah, it'll take, we are usually behind 1 year for the year's worth of data.
Yeah.
So we took all the way to 2025. So we don't have
Okay.
26 data yet.
Okay, so it looks like the average count is about 92, 94 for collisions. And if we isolated the three proposed roundabouts and threw away the data from 2020 to 2022 because of COVID, looking at real data of the 94, and then looking at those three roundabout and isolate those three roundabouts for the collisions, you would then be able to estimate in 2026, 2027, the number of collisions that we would not have because of roundabouts.
Correct.
And that factors into the speed and the throughput. But that's a data that's an estimate. But couldn't you get the copies of the reports? Because we're only talking about 94 reports from the local office of the CHP.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not having to rely on a 27 report of what happened in 26. So it's a helpful piece. But when I'm looking at the chart that is on page 17, existing signals, 9 adaptive signals, then the third choice is 6 adaptive signals plus the 3 roundabouts. The estimate, it goes from existing signals to 17 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Slide 17, I think it is.
Yeah.
Just so everybody is on the same.
It's the next slide.
Okay.
We didn't get there. Okay. Yeah.
So
This is
with
in
the
the
three,
CFP color.
with the 3 roundabouts, that comparison chart shows 11 minutes, and that 11 minutes is from Corral de Tierra.
No, Jocelyn Canyon, in the east.
Okay.
All the way to San Benancio.
Okay, so the entire route on the map from Jocelyn Canyon to San Benancio with 3 roundabouts and adaptive signal light shows 11 minutes.
Yes.
So to me, that is the wow factor in the results.
I was about to get there, but we were stuck.
Oh, okay.
This was my next slide.
Well, you just saved us 10 minutes. But that to me is the wow factor when you add in there a lower number of collisions, a lower number of injuries.
Yeah.
And the delays that occur on every collision are what factors into the 17 minutes or 33 minutes.
Right.
What we're trying to do is remove 65% of the collisions.
Right.
And those collisions are property damage only and not injury, which is the win for society.
Yes.
So I'm making the case for phase 1, 3 roundabouts is justified with the money we have. And we continue analyzing the data after those 3 are in place. So just for the public sales piece, I think we need to advertise the 3 we're talking about.
Mhm.
And we need to highlight the benefits of the reduced collisions at those 3 roundabouts.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the asterisk that the public needs to see. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate the presentation we've had so far, but I have no problem with roundabouts. I've supported the projects before, but I am getting concerned where I'm seeing a rush to judgment that adaptive signals over just a couple months now we know exactly what they're going to produce. And we have a 5-year program on these. And yet we're now making decisions over 2 months worth of data, 3 months maybe at the most, and being told that all the maximization for the AI is already done. yet these adaptive signals are not everywhere, and we're still, in the prior presentation, there's some impediments onto the technical ability of the people to make those adjustments. So I have no problem working down this path where, we have to still work towards the AI grants where we've already invested dollars. But I am very concerned on hearing that the AI is being prejudged as we hit its maximum and it can't do anything more. So I just wanted to bring that up because what my expectation was when we started this, that we would be receiving reports over a long period of time, and we would receive the changes that were happening. And we expected some of this stuff, but I do not believe that it's been maximized. I'm not the expert on it, but after a few months, I still think there's more things that could be done. And this is frustrating because the cost of the roundabouts is significant. And what I've just heard was the suggestion is move forward with 3 roundabouts and 6 adaptive. But in the future, we'll look at replacing those adaptive ones. So we're back down the same road of all of the roundabouts. So, thank you.
Thank you. I think we've discussed enough here. So I just wanted to first of all, ask you, are there more slides to cover? Or is this it?
This and the next slide is it.
And then just for the board, this is just informational update, but you're going to do a cost benefit analysis, right? So we're going to have some constructive numbers to look at to review 3 versus 9 or 0 versus 9 or 9 versus 9, et cetera, in the coming update. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that'll give a clearer picture of us on what we need to decide. I also feel that we're somewhat missing the mark by just showing the time that we have gained or the time the side streets have lost, et cetera. We need some volume, I believe, meaning, of course, you've gained time, but how much of the volume is that? Is it 1,500 cars? Is it 1,000 cars? We need to add volume in all these graphics for us to make a decision to say what works best. So a side street, for example, saying is waiting for 27 seconds, and the main artery is gaining 5 seconds, does not give me a clearer picture because the side street could just be 2 cars and the main artery could be 1,000 cars. So what are we exactly gaining there? So I think there's some more information we can add in that will help us come to a conclusion here. But I think, yeah. So I just, is there anything here that you wanted to communicate from this key findings first, and then I'll go back to the question here.
Yeah, I was about to say that to Bruce's point, the adaptive is still new. You could achieve the demand that exists for 1,200 vehicles, because 1,300 vehicles, you're off by 100 vehicles today, right? You could get there, but the only way we can probably get there is by sacrificing side streets even more. Because you have a system where you only have 2 variables to work with: throughput, side street. So something's got to give this more. But there's also the possibility that we discussed. You could achieve a little bit more efficiency. So to your point, we want to again come back and evaluate adaptive, give them some time, and let's see how they adapt, and come back and report the findings in August. And then Caltrans will review the BC data, of course, and then present the formal. So this is where we were trying to stop.
Okay,
I'm done.
Appreciate it. Now go ahead.
I appreciate the time. And this is the single biggest traffic challenge in District 5. So my apologies for asking a lot of questions. So when you come back, and this refers back to Doug, I don't know what page I was on, but you had made the comments regarding maximum flow and the lower rate of speed. And I'm just speculating the climate benefit. So if there is some data or is something relevant to cars moving versus stopping and starting in terms of carbon emissions, I'd love to see that because that's going to be helpful. And also, my understanding is that we have not been investing money in the development of the other roundabouts. We have focused, the SB1 grant, is all just on the 3. Is that accurate?
Close. We did
Okay.
an environmental impact report.
For the
on
whole corridor.
We did all 9. We started design on all 9. We got to a certain point and we said, you know what, let's go phase 1. And that's one of the key findings is, I think all this work, I hope, we take away a few things. And that's one of them is those 3 intersections, that makes sense. And it's the pinch point in both directions. So that's kind of something that you should take away. If it was something different where we had the big queue on one end and a big queue on the other, but they're both in the morning and the afternoon, they're all caused because Corral de Tierra and San Benancho are very close together and they have heavy left turns. It's not at Pasadena, right? Just kind of visualize that. It's not, so that's the takeaway. So we haven't spent a lot more and we need to get guidance from this group eventually to say, we got to kick up the effort on this 3 roundabouts in this phase 1 if we want to make the SB1 grant deadline. If we decide as a group that we don't want to go forward with the SB1 grant, then we can hold back on the design, but we're only working on those 3 designs. We brought it back. We said, slow down until you got to this point to where we did it. We did a preliminary assessment. And you could just see right now, you're just having a hard time digesting just the traffic part. We've done the safety, we've done the collision types, and we've thrown it in the model, but preliminary, it looks good. It looks that the money used will pay off in terms of reduced collisions and congestion relief. We'll bring that back in August so that you all know about it. But it'll just be the 3. I don't think we have the time and the effort to go 9 because that.
And to clarify, I mean, no need to go any further, that in that time, since that original environmental analysis was done, traffic improvements have occurred at intersections like York Road that probably will never need a roundabout. So I guess what I'm trying to say is today, there's no decisions being made, number 1. This was just a report back on the progress. Number 2, for this supervisor, if we never talk about 9 roundabouts again, that would be better because that's something I hear all the time and there's some consternation about that. But what I see in what you're presenting in the 3 and the impacts on the west side, the impacts at intersections like Jocelyn Canyon Road is significant. That's great. We're getting some really good data here. And so that I just, I'm very supportive of continuing to get this data and this feedback back for us to analyze it, and long-term focusing our attention on 3 roundabouts, not 9 roundabouts, because I really think the data is showing us that we can have a real impact by addressing that portion of the corridor. On the entire corridor, it would have an impact. So I don't know if that's making sense, but what I'm seeing is very helpful. And the less we talk about 9 roundabouts, especially since we're concluding ultimately that the 3 have a corridor-wide impact, the better, because it's a distraction in terms of the larger conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Last board comment. Go ahead.
Thanks. I'll be relatively quick, but I like the comment about, what was it? The safety, the deaths and stuff should be in there. But Doug, I thought next time we bring this back, again, what you said before, what I learned from you before, you can't add time. And so when people say, hey, how can we improve the AI? How can we maximize the AI? At a certain point, you maximize in one direction or another. That's just it, right? But the roundabouts allow people not to stop. And that's where I think people are having trouble with that. And then when the chair said something about, what does that relate to in time? What does it relate to in volume? My understanding is, my calculation is right now with the AI, 1,188 from 1,600, we're losing 412 cars of volume. you can't get to 1,600 because you can only stop at 1,400. I got that. So then I did that number, but what we gained is 252 cars per hour. So I think if you bring those numbers back and verify, that's where we're looking for a volume. But that's why I'm moving on from AI, which is if you're giving me more time going east to west, that means north and south is stopped for that same amount of time. So I look forward to the discussion. And of course, nothing is settled. But thank you so much, Chair.
Good, you brought up something that, just think of it as this, in the signals, you have either a person or an AI, person out there, and they're opening and closing valves constantly. They're running up and down the corridor, turning it off, turning it on, turning it off, giving it green, giving it yellow, giving it red. That has a lost time of 10%, and you cannot get rid of that with adaptive. It's embedded in it. Adaptive does a little better job of turning on and off the valves, but the valves only go open for so long before the side streets have to get served. With a roundabout, you don't have this on and off. It's constantly flowing, and we probably don't have time for the simulation, but if you'd like to, we could show it, but it's pretty amazing. And you just watch the cars as they keep flowing through a roundabout. The gaps are there, the side streets find their way in. It's intuitive more than a signal where you're trying to coordinate that.
I just have to say Doug's gonna have to come back in August to watch the video if he wants to come back and see it.
Just make it for you.
And thank you. This does need to go for public comment. Let me open it up for public comment. Anybody from the room? Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Eric Peterson, and I really don't want to upset anybody's apple carts or anything, but all this conversation has been about cars. There are more road users than cars. And I think everybody in this room, or at least most of you, know that I deep down am a bicyclist. And even Caltrans once called me an expert cyclist. And I will take a properly built roundabout over a signal every time. Not just for safety. A lot of it's expedience. When you're on a bicycle and you have to start up with that light, it's a pain. And you have to keep, that's why you see so many people on bicycles running lights. But I don't think this is going to really change the conversation much. But please remember, there are people out there on two wheels with their own propulsion and not necessarily e-bikes. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Any other public comment from the room? Seeing none here, we'll go online. We have one. Christina, do you have the floor? Christina, you'll have to unmute yourself. I just saw you unmute yourself and then you muted again. Let's give it one more try. Okay, we'll move on. Christina, if you want to, you can write to the board. Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
She's having problems, I guess. Anyway, this is from Christina. My name is Christina Bricatino. I'm the president of Sarah Village Homeowners Association. I basically have lived in Sarah Village for 45 years. For many years now, Portola Drive in Sierra has been hugely impacted by overflow from Highway 68, cut through traffic. We worked with TAMC and created a pilot project that included a partial road closure to stop westbound traffic on Portola Drive to connect to 68. The pilot project was a success. I'd like to add that there was a phase 2 in tandem with a phase 1 pilot project for Portola, Portola Drive in Toro Park. After almost a year, both pilot projects with TAMC ended and we were handed over to the county. Toro Park received another pilot project through the county. Sarah Village was promised a pilot project after Toro Park, but it was put on hold in anticipation of successful results from the AI lights being installed. The following unsuccessful results. On Thursday, February 12th, pre-A lights, 464 cars traveled westbound on Portola Drive between 6:30 and 8:30. On Tuesday, May 19th, with AI lights, 438 cars traveled westbound between 6:30 and 8:30. That's 464 cars, 438 cars driving down, excuse me, driving down a residential street to bypass Highway 68, turning Highway 68 problem into Portola Drive problem. I'm here to help our neighborhood. Please include Portola Drive and Sarah Village in any studies. Please consider using Major X funds to help us implement and finalize an already successful pilot project that worked and solved the problems of Highway 68 commuters through our residents. All said, I'm well aware of the opinion roundabouts. Please don't ask us to be patient and wait until up there installed. We need to help now to divert commuter traffic on our residential Portola.
Thank you, sir.
Back on Highway 68, it should be. Thanks.
Thank you. And I just wanted to note that Christina, you had shared a letter that's part of the correspondence for TAMC too. If you'd like to write any additional information, you can also email us at info@tamcmonterey.org. Okay, with that, we close this item. Doug, I wanted to mention that everybody was really attentive, including Director Oglesby. So we're good. But the next section is the providers' reports, and so we'll start with Caltrans.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Orchid Monroy Ochoa, and I'm here on behalf of Scott Eads from Caltrans. One of the announcements that I have is that Caltrans announced the awardees for the fiscal year 26-27 Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant Cycle on May 29th. Congratulations to MST and the City of Soledad for successful applications. We look forward to working with them on the new projects. If you had any unsuccessful application, the district holds optional debrief meetings, and we can provide feedback for the next cycle. So please reach out to the district if you are interested in having a meeting with us. As a reminder, the grant guide for the next cycle is currently available online for public review and is accepting comments through the website through July 2nd. You can find the website by Googling Caltrans grants, and it usually is the first result that comes up. We anticipate the next call for planning grants to come sometime in August of this year. So please resubmit your application if you are interested in being considered again. So those are all my announcements for today.
Thank you. Any questions from board members? I see your hand raised. Dwight, your hand is up. Is this in relation to the transportation provider report?
No, it's for the previous one, and I had my hand up, but when you had difficulty with that one person, then you just went on with the person, on site there, and then I had a chance to make a comment.
Okay, why don't we do one thing? Well, let's just finish the transportation provider report, and I'll come back to you, Dwight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll move on to the next transportation provider, Monterey Peninsula Airport. Do we have anybody from the airport?
Yes, Carl Miller is here. Thank you. Only thing to report is we are moving forward with the terminal. We're scheduled to have it completed and to include the parking lot and improvements to Garden Road and Olmsted this time next year. We are putting a roundabout on Olmsted at Garden Road, even though that's in the city of Monterey. They asked us to do that, and we consented, and we're working on that right now.
Okay, thank you. It's roundabouts galore for Doug's final day. Any questions or thoughts here? Anything else? If not, we'll move on to MST.
Thank you, Chair. A couple things. We're working with the City of Salinas and their developer, Avila Construction, regarding what's called Lot 12 It is the area that's just across the street from the Salinas Transit Center across Lincoln. They're going to start a major private construction project, housing units, that's going to break ground on September 1st. This is going to significantly impact bus operations into and out of our Salinas Transit Center over the next 2 years. And we'll be implementing changes to our bus flow around that whole block starting August 29th. We're going to start outreach for round 2 of the Salinas Rapid Bus and Salinas Transit Center relocation study. Check MST's website and social media in July to look for ways to participate in the public surveys and a number of pop-up events that we'll be planning. We're updating our Designing for Transit guidelines. I've had our first technical advisory committee meeting on that. This is really critical as we continue to build roundabouts and make other construction improvements where MST does provide guidance on how to design for our buses and our passengers. Hasn't always been looked at, but I want to thank Caltrans, TAMC, AMBAG, City of Salinas, and City of Greenfield who've assigned staff to participate in the project. We'll have a survey released in July asking public to note specific bus stops they use and how they would like to prioritize amenities. Lastly, a big announcement for our South County folks. Uber Transit announced $1 million of transit investments nationwide, 20 projects of $50,000 each to partner with local transit operators. I'm happy to announce that Monterey Salinas Transit was selected as one of Uber's partners this coming year, actually this summer. And this will provide on-demand taxi-like services for the South County cities, Pajaro and Castroville, who have typically have not had access to same-day on-demand services through our local taxi companies. So we're going to experiment with Uber so that our seniors, veterans, and persons with disabilities can get access to the what were taxi vouchers. We'll be providing them with Uber vouchers. It'll be a demonstration project until the $50,000 runs out. And then we'll see whether we can duplicate that and find ways to do that. So that's big news. It's something we've been working on for a long time to try to restore or to get on-demand services to our seniors, veterans, and persons with disabilities in the South County cities where the taxis have just not been willing to participate in that program. Thank you.
Okay, exciting stuff. Go ahead.
Carl, I ask you this from time to time. Is the SURF project on budget, and have you used any of the 15 million contingency funds yet?
SURF project is on budget. Have we used the I would say no, we haven't used any of the contingency funds yet. They're contingency funds. We're about halfway through construction at this point, so we haven't got to that point where the 15 million is necessary, but we're still well capitalized, on budget, and ahead of schedule at this time.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, we'll go on to Embark. I see David. Go ahead.
Hi. Yes, good morning. Our electric vehicle incentive program will launch on July 1st. It provides residents of Monterey, San Benito, and Santa Cruz counties $2,000 towards the purchase or lease of an electric vehicle. For public agencies, offers $5,000 for the purchase of an electric vehicle. So if you're in the market for an electric vehicle, now's the time to buy. So that launches July 1st. Our motor vehicle emission reduction grants program applications are open. It's for public agencies and nonprofit organizations. The grants are for up to $200,000 for bicycle infrastructure, medium-duty fleet vehicle replacements for electric vehicles, or electric vehicle charging equipment. And that's the end of my update. Thanks.
Thank you, David. No grants for EVs going through roundabouts? I'm just kidding. So, all right, we finished item 8 here and I just want to go back to item number 7. Looks like a couple of folks had wanted to make a comment publicly. Dwight, if you're still here, I just wanted to go back to you. I actually see Barry Jones' hand raised. So maybe Barry, why don't you go first?
Okay, I think I've unmuted, have I?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Really good presentation, enjoyed it. Lots of detail. Several points. The huge dual carriageway widening that you're showing, I'm for the roundabouts, obviously, the approach there. What would the adaptive numbers be if it had the same widening? You get more traffic through with the widening that you're looking at. So there's a flow situation there. Complete modelling of the whole corridor. I believe you, Chair, said that 9 roundabouts and 9 intersection comparison would be 9 adaptive intersection would be part of the expected stuff to be seen when they come back. So could you check that? I'd like to see that. Fluid dynamics, totally understand that. I'm chartered civil engineer. 2 inches pipe into a 1-inch pipe does not work. So as I said in my letter to the board, we have a capacity issue here. And in reality, there's a lot of money at stake and we should be going back looking at alternatives to whatever's on the table at the moment. I know that's dramatic, but I think we really ought to consider that. Fourth, there's no data for the 2026, as was admirably pointed out, accident report. The 94 reports from CHP, I think that definitely should be pursued. And Mike Labar, as usual, is very, very precise about his comments and the judgment there, the rushing to judgment. I feel strongly with that. We should not be rushing to judgment. Looking forward to August. And if I could make one specific request, before the next meeting, this is going to be a very, very detailed report. Lots of information in there, lots of questions, lots of misunderstandings, but could we have it delivered to the public and the board 2 weeks before the actual board meeting? Thank you.
Okay, we've noted that. Thank you for your comment. And Dwight, if you're still around, now's the time.
Okay, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, that is a lot to digest, and it did come very late, so we didn't have time to really prepare for the PowerPoint discussion. But I believe in my conversations with Doug, the AI data that was there is not actually from the AI that's been installed, and is actually just the coordinated intersection data that was before. So that's very misleading in saying that is AI, and that AI needs to have more time to prove what it can do. I also thought that the board was originally going to compare 9 roundabouts with 9 AI. And so this switch really decreases the effectiveness of AI per Mile Vision, who stated that it will degrade the overall performance because it breaks the flow of the data between the signals. So you install AI and then you degrade the operation of it by trying to add 3 roundabouts. The other thing is that all this is based on simulation, and so it'll be great to actually see it, because no one can complete that sentence that I had in my letter of actual installation. The simulation by GHD was wrong when it came to emergency response time significantly. So now you're basing $330 million decision on a computer simulation as opposed to real. Safety thing, I will have to refer back to Caltrans, which didn't show any intersection problems historically. So I'd like to know where they got that. And also, no one's still recognizing the 62% increase in collisions that 2-lane roundabouts are studied to show. So a lot of questions that hopefully will be answered. And I totally agree with Barry that we need to have more information that's going to be presented earlier so that we can, offer a written contra opinion to it. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I officially close item number 7, public comment. Appreciate it, everybody hanging in here. I'll go on to item number 9, which is report on meetings attended by board members at TAMC expense. Any?
There were none.
Okay, thank you. Item number 10 is the ED report. Go ahead, Doug.
All right, thank you. Just a few items. One, that this evening, there is at 6 PM at Hartnell College, the Monterey County Active Transportation Plan stakeholder meeting is scheduled. We provided that notice last month, but just wanted to remind the board members that that's happening this evening. I wanted to introduce Javier Hernandez, who is taking over as our principal transportation planner. He started on Monday, and hopefully he's excited by what he heard today versus being scared. I'm not sure, he has to see how that goes. But really appreciate having Javier here. And I didn't really say this, but I just wanted to extend my appreciation to Doug. He's been such an important part of the TAMC team while he's been at TAMC. And he's always the first to jump in and volunteer to help out for things. So board mentioned a lot of great things he's done. You only see the tip of the iceberg as far as how the positive impact he makes on our agency. So thank you, Doug. And then finally, a couple slides that next on the July 14th at 1 PM will be the Imogene Parkway Roundabout ribbon cutting. This is one of the regional Measure X projects. Want to just note that it's almost done. Next slide. Artwork. These really interesting, beautiful panels were installed this last week, and there's more artwork being installed this next week, and then the ribbon cutting on the 14th. So I just wanted to share that with the board. And then finally, just to note that we don't have meetings in July, so we'll see you in August as far as our next board meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, no meetings in July, but I would say the last item here is the closed session item, and this is for real estate negotiations. Any comments from public before we enter into closed session?
You skipped number 11. I'll get you that.
Did I skip item number 11? Okay, yes, sorry, my apologies. Anybody wish to, the item number 11 was announcements and comments from TAMC members on matters that they want to put on future transportation agency agendas. Anybody have any items there? Okay, seeing none, I'm back to closed session public comment. Any public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the closed session. Thank you, everyone, and a very good afternoon to you. Okay, we're back from the closed session. Go ahead.
There's nothing to report out, so we're ready to adjourn. It's your call.
All right, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.